We have an introduction to do. Tyler Dunphy is our new student rep to the school board. He's a senior here at Raymond. Welcome.
Howdy. How y'all doing?
Good. How are you?
Good.
Welcome.
Good. I'm super excited to be a part of the Raymond community, especially get more hands-on with school and its policies.
Have you ever looked at the budget? Have a look at it.
Yeah.
You'll be
You
up
get
in a
caught
few
up,
minutes,
yeah.
so.
Change it.
All right. Next up is public input. Do we have any public input?
Hi.
Oh.
I wrote a letter that I just want to read to you.
If you could just state your name for the record,
Oh,
please.
sure. My name is Beth Cashman. Sorry.
Thank you.
I am here to comment about a discussion you had during a budget meeting last week for the next school year, specifically school nutrition services. I work for our school nutrition services here in the high school. When privatizing school nutrition services was brought up and discussed, the very thing that my coworkers and I do every school day, it bothered me. Why? I believe we provide a personal service to our students. The amount of experience and knowledge within each of our kitchens is amazing. I've only been part of this school nutrition services team for just over a year now. We provide a well-balanced meal, including fruits and vegetables every day. We may not serve everyone's favorite meals every day, but the quality is top notch. If the posted hot lunch menu for a particular day isn't for you, come check out the a la carte side. That's the side that I like. A la carte offers made-to-order salads and wraps, snack items, as well as finger foods like mozzarella sticks, pizzas, soft pretzels, and so on. From time to time, our school's cook, who is very knowledgeable with USDA guidelines, creates something new for our students to try. If a new item is well received, it could become a regular item for a la carte or even become a staple within our 6-week rotating menu plan. Last school year, she created some buffalo chicken egg rolls. The kids really like those. She's also created what we call pigs and fleece blankets, hot dog wrapped in this really heavy cheese roll, if you will, that puffs up really big, looks like a fleece blanket. With that being said, I invite each of you to come to one of our schools and have lunch with us. I have a copy of each school's menu for November, as well as the schedule for when lunches are served. Of course, you'd have to sign in as a guest and at the main office, probably be escorted to the cafeteria, but I do suggest Thursday, the 16th of November, because that's our holiday feast hot lunch. That's our Thanksgiving lunch to the kids. I understand that you may have other places to be during the day. A lot of people do. If you do happen to have some time on another day, please come and visit us. Lunch is on us. See how we are, how we interact with each other, and more importantly, how we interact with our students. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I will leave these here for the elementary school, the middle school, the high school, what our lunches are and what our breakfast and lunches are.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I have 2 emails to read tonight, per request of the individuals. Dear school board, as a taxpayer of Raymond, I thank you for your efforts to reduce or at least not increase our tax burden. As a nutritional specialist, I am highly disappointed in your performance so far. You have no idea who your team of dedicated employees are. We have been watching the school board meets, and you have said so many wrong facts. There are chefs who know what kids like to eat better than we do, unquote. We do know what the kids want to eat. We are constantly asking questions, sharing samples before we try new foods to make sure it will be enjoyed and will sell. This has been presented to you by Tasha Bell with pictures last year, and you still do not see us as professionals who know what children want to eat. If you go to the grocery store, you will see Food prices are huge right now. Another company isn't going to make food magically cost less. We know what the children want to eat. So it's wages that the school board thinks will make a difference. Remember, you get what you pay for. Cheap labor is just that, cheap. Shame on you for only looking at a spreadsheet. If the school board knew and valued the education, years of experience, and what we do to help the school nutrition program on your own time, you would stop. We are also trusted members of the Raymond community. We are feeding our own children and our neighbors' children. You have the very best team already. We are ready to prove it again and again and again until you hear us. Sincerely, Shannon McGee, I think. RHS Cook, taxpayer of Raymond, registered voter of Raymond. As I mentioned, I have another one to read. Honorable school board members and superintendent. Please read my email into the public record. My job prevents me from attending the meeting in person. I've been a Raymond resident and taxpayer for over 10 years. I'm writing today due to the continued discussion around replacing all 3 schools' culinary nutrition teams with privatized, outsourced labor. I'm deeply concerned as these folks in the cafeterias are part of our community, have a genuine love of their jobs, and more importantly, their children. They're not working in the cafeterias to become rich. Any one of them could experience a much higher level of pay with like benefits elsewhere in matters of hours. I've heard school board members state during the recorded meetings that the current lunch teams actually make money on the food they sell. It sounds like when that's combined with inability to pay from our families, it looks like red ink. It's not the lunch team's fault that the school is unable to collect from these families. I've also heard some of the board members state that they have no idea if switching to a private contractor will actually turn this situation around. I believe there's an enormous risk of losing talented, knowledgeable, and trained staff that truly love our kids if they are released to institute a private contractor. You will never get all these fine people back to work for the district. Being that the school district is still on the hook for the equipment and maintenance as well as the free and reduced programs, I really can't see any potential savings. Looking at Picked Fresh's website, they seem pretty short on testimonials and have numerous job listings. They actually appear to pay more with like benefits our current staff. If Picked Fresh, was the ultimate answer, why is every school district why is every school district falling over themselves to retain them? I'm deeply concerned we'll end up with another private contractor like our house busing agreement, which is actually costing us more money, as I understand it. And we've alienated our dedicated drivers. In conclusion, when watching the school board meetings on RCTV, I can see that all the board members and superintendent have the taxpayers' best interests at heart. I hope you'll reconsider this potential move carefully, as it will be extremely difficult to reestablish what we have now if the contractor doesn't work out. I have a sense that the contractor won't make any difference, in parentheses financially, for families that are unable to pay. Well, I can't speak for all Raymond citizens. I feel that I'd rather pay a little extra in taxes to ensure all hungry children are fed well in school. Sincerely, Owen McGee. Thank you to both. The public comment will still continue to be open for the 30 minutes from when we started the public comment.
John?
Go ahead.
I'd just like to say that I don't know anybody really, they weren't exactly, forcing the issue of going with fresh picks. And again, we were only going to look at it right now. This was something that we decided as a board to look at, and you know what the vote was 7 years ago when it went up to the voters. but again, in my mind, take a look at it is we're definitely not putting down any of the food service workers. We think they do a wonderful job. I've eaten some of their meals. They're very good. I particularly like the turkey and gravy days, but that's just me. I know the kids love the Bosco sticks. I
The
don't get,
wraps are pretty good too.
what is it?
The wraps, they're pretty good.
Yeah, my son likes them, so. I don't like I don't get I've had the Bosco sticks before. I don't get the Bosco sticks. Kids love them. That's good for them. So I want to say that we really do appreciate our food service. And again, we're just looking, even in looking at another company, we may actually learn something for ourselves. I mean, many companies, they go into the competitors just to see what's going on, just to take a look, see around, and see maybe we can learn something. Well, even at that point, we may learn something that we can help ourselves with. Again, this is not a final decision, and I know we have some issues as well, so that's it.
All right. Next up, a student representative of the school board, Tyler.
Hi. So. What I'm supposed to do here.
Oh, you got,
Just give us an update as to if anything new going on
Um,
at the high school.
it's actually been very calm. I think like, especially since I came here during COVID, there was a wild time, wild transitory period. A lot of people had to adapt and we're still sort of seeing the fallout, but I've definitely seen some improvements, like bathrooms, like the bathroom issue. That's been way down.
nice.
I know site council, we brought it up again because it's still not non-existent, but it's definitely in a better place. Yeah, I think the school has definitely gotten better over the years. Obviously, we've had our issues, but I think, I don't know. I'm proud to say like I went to Raymond, which is something I never thought I'd do, to be honest, but I'm glad to be here.
So the attitude starting off the year is
Yeah.
positive.
Yeah, definitely.
All right.
I'm gonna get up and hug him right now, all right?
Do it. Got ice cream
Thank you,
for him?
All right, next up,
Thanks, Tyler.
our students, our schools will not, we had a scheduling issue and we're not going to be able to have them tonight. The Raymond, well, I should mention which Raymond High School Youth Action students. Facilities update, Todd?
Alrighty, so I have an update, recently started last school year. Pick it up in the summer and it's gonna look very similar to the rest of the summers we have. With the exception we're down 5 out of 10 of our normal custodians, so that was a bit of a tough break for us. Like I told you in the past, we had a lot of high school subs that worked with us, which made it doable. Again, we empty every single classroom, we clean every floor, we finish the floor, wash every wall, do light fixture, every piece of furniture. A lot of classroom moves as new teachers come in, new principals come in, but this year we have our classroom moves to accommodate all that. Basically anything had to happen, but the buildings did get fully cleaned, even though we were fully staffed. Nothing really changed. I shouldn't have noticed a difference when I came back. Now we just work to keep them up. So also over the summer, we completed some CIP projects. A couple of the major ones we did was replacing the media center flooring at the middle school. We ripped up the carpet, put in new carpet tiles. Looks good. We opened up the space a little bit using our maintenance staff to create a more functional area for student use and for after hour use as well, I'd say, for meetings and stuff like that. Just a better flow, less hiding spots, if you will, for some of the students. But it was originally designed was not too well. We replaced the intercom system at the middle school to include some lockdown buttons and some active visual notifications for loud areas. Things we kind of see during our drills sometimes are in the band rooms or the gymnasiums, possibly the cafeteria. If the announcement goes up and somebody doesn't hear it, it's not a good thing. So we added some visual flashers now, so when it goes off, you see more device flash. Students know to be quiet, hear the announcement, and move on. Those are in the band rooms, the cafeteria at the gymnasium. So, yes, Joe.
Is it a different light? You said it was orange, right?
Orange and amber light.
Okay.
So does that come on regardless of the announcement?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
As soon as you hit the all-call button or the dial extension.
Sure.
It just starts flashing. And the students hopefully be quiet and see it. The other schools would be in the band room or the tech ed room here, areas where we would have saws running and things like that. So, I mean, it's a pretty basic thing, but it also is very helpful because we've had issues in the past with that. So as we upgrade, we try to cover all of our bases. We're in the process of finally having our work van, which of all the things we've ever gotten here, I wanted the most and I was just not able to get it. So we finally found one. We're on a waiting list for a little over a year. We had a little snafu with one of the other ones we're on a waiting list for, but we're able to square it away. Paperwork's actually in process now, so we should have that very soon. We'll get it outfitted and our maintenance guys will be up and around town with that. That should really streamline things and make it more efficient. Maintenance staff for the summer, we're also down to half, which is only one, because we have two. Pretty good math there. We were able to, like I said, improve the traffic flow, both at the media center and the middle school, as well as the front office of the high school. Between that, we removed some walls and redid a bunch of things to kind of open it up. The office has been chopped up many times over the years. Changing staff and secretaries and needs. We finally kind of sat down and said, look, it doesn't flow very well for visitors. A lot of bad sight lines, where student activity was happening, where students were sitting, waiting for discipline or waiting for meetings with principals. So we corrected that. It looks good. You wouldn't even know what happened if you didn't see it before. So that's always nice. What else did we do? We did quite a bit of plumbing this summer. We had to upgrade all the plumbing to every one of our dilution systems, which nobody cares about. It's in the back quadrants, but they all had to re-pipe to meet current code. So he worked on that for quite a bit. And just some basic stuff that the teacher needed done, putting up walls, taking out walls, which else to basic things you can think of. As far as safety and emergency management, we're continuing with the same training or similar training we've had over the years. We're still using ALICE as our emergency response action for lockdown. We did complete our drill a day, similar to last year. We have 8 response actions for the first day of school. Students are taught these actions by the teachers. I have now a 4th grade class because they move up from elementary school, obviously. So they will change what they're taught for ALICE protocols, lockdown protocols. So I meet with them personally to make sure that that goes over well. Again, followed up by the teachers. So that's happened. We're continuing to do our fire drills as determined by the state. We also have some on-site lockdown drills scheduled for November. So they will happen before it gets too cold. We want to wait till the kids kind of get a feel for the building, things like that. We've updated our emergency operations plans and both through the state. The only added thing this year was an annex for sports related emergencies, which was required by the state. Our athletic trainer at the high school did a great job. Worked with me quite a bit on completing that, so good to have in there. We've updated the MOUs, which are understanding with different companies in town for our rally points for, again, use for emergency management processes. The individual school safety teams have begin to meet. Let's talk about both building safety as it pertains to working comp things, like trips and falls, as well as emergency management things, which is specific to each site or each protocol in each building. Maybe once, sorry, the question.
Nope. Sorry.
Maybe once a month, and they're ongoing. Keep notes on that stuff, and then the district team will meet as well as the JLMC team, which is another district level safety meeting. Let's see, we were working on planning for the district / townwide drill at the middle school. That's the annual drill we do once a year. That involves we do police, fire, ambulance, as well as the school. This year it happens to be the middle school, so that'll happen usually in the springtime. As I say, we're continuing to utilize ALICE. The staff are all assigned an online refresher training this year, which is great because they get a little piece of it. And the new staff, again, went through the scenario-based training, which is an hour of me going over a presentation, as well as they actually participate with hands-on shooting exercises. It takes them right through all the steps in the decision-making process, so they get a real feel for that. we always get good feedback from that, but it's hard to do with everybody every year, so we just kind of focus on the new staff. Let's see, the ESSER funded HVAC's controls project is completed at the middle school, nearing completion at the high school. Actually in the, say the troubleshooting phase, up and running 100%. But I'm going through it daily to try to find localized little issues. And for those of you who don't know, we changed all the controls from pneumatics to digital, which includes every actuator in the entire building, which is on every heat pipe in every classroom. There are multiple actuators on all the dampers. There's a lot of moving parts and a lot of programming, and multiple people in here all summer. So there's just little quirks, but for the most part, it's up and running. It's awesome. I love it. Went from seeing on off to data coming back and kind of now we can do all kinds of things to see what's happening and really work on our HVAC properties, I could say. Let's see, the SAFE grant is up again. That's $100,000 grant per school. So I'm looking at doing one per building. We did this before. We were awarded the cameras at the high school. That's what paid for that. We did not get it for the other schools. But this year we're looking at doing the emergency notification at both the high school and the elementary school, which you guys would know as the intercom system, but it's truly our mass notification for emergencies. That's what the grant is focused on. And then at the middle school, we're looking at upgrading the current lock system to a newer upgraded lock system that has indicators on it. It's kind of what everyone's going to. And the issues people have their own locks in the middle school weren't originally designed to have a thumb lock, so some of the classrooms give us some issues maintenance wise. So we're looking to get those upgraded to a new style. And I think that's about it for the update.
Questions, comments for Todd? Go ahead, Joe.
I think we actually have one of the new controls right on the wall over here. It doesn't hiss anymore, so.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds silly that I'm so excited about it, but they're, it's been a long time coming. When they were put in '87, they were. So this is way better.
Do you guys have remote control for all of those, or do you still have to manually?
Those? Oh no, I have access to it all the time. Bring it up my phone and do anything you want right on my phone, or my guys carry iPads, so I'll usually grab one of them.
Kind of help regulate on the fly.
Is that?
You can help regulate everything on the
Oh
fly.
yeah, I watch them. I mean, it's when I'm laying in bed at night, I watch them. Believe me, I don't want to be that guy. Sweet. Yeah, it's awesome. We can see them, watch all the temperatures, watch the boil systems. We know what's happening. They send emails if we have failures, so it's really nice.
That's awesome.
Go ahead, Joe.
Are you doing volunteers again for the drill day?
Yes, we'll be looking for volunteers. Yep. We don't have a scenario yet or any plan, but it'll be similar to what we've done in the past. We kind of regulate it for the school, obviously, so it won't be as it'll be a different scenario than the high school has, not as low as the elementary school had, somewhere in the middle there. So make it so.
Good, Steve.
So, and this might be something we'll have to talk about at another time, but since we brought up the Alice drills, have we talked at all about what the effect of the realism of the drills is on some of the kids?
It's always talked about. It's talked about in general, and then when we discussed having the actual drills, it's heavily talked about, especially by our behavioral health people.
Okay.
So yes, it is talked about.
Have we looked at options for not making them quite as real? I mean, you want the kids to know what to do, but sometimes I think a drill that's very realistic could somehow be just as distressing for some kids as the event itself. I see my compatriot to my left shaking his head yes.
There have been arguments made by students that that's kind of an uncomfortable situation to be put in. It's like, oh, hey, this is almost too real for me. Like, where's the line drawn? I understand, like, we need to be prepared, but it's like, I don't want to have to wake up the next day in a sweat because I'm reliving all of that and that felt too real.
Yeah.
But it's definitely been talked about. We definitely have extra guidance and stuff on hand. I will say we, to my knowledge, never had any negative feedback such as that or had anyone go to guidance. I don't have any issues with it after the fact. I have very strong opinions on it one way, so I like the way we do it. That's why we do it that way. There is data, supports those things. There's data the other way too that says it shouldn't be as real, but I will tell you that we found some real life issues that we would not have found if we didn't do it the way we do it. That wouldn't have been discovered if we weren't like actually putting them in that type of situation. That could have been really problematic, and we were able to work through those things. So if something ever does happen there.
Yeah, the high school had done the real life drill last spring. And I was actually an observer and I was in Todd knows this. I was in the gymnasium area, lobby, whatever you want to call it, waiting. And that's where the intruder came in with the gun. And the conscious decision was not to have the gun sound like a gun as loud as it was. And so when it came in, it didn't sound like a gun. And the gym class, the phys ed class that was going on would have normally heard that shot. But they didn't hear anything. And that's the downside of, I mean, he, for lack of a better way of saying it, watered down the sound of a gun. But what happened was the PE teacher and some of the students realized what was going on because I think they saw activity, not what the result of a gunfire, which they would have heard if it had been sounding like a gun. So, and I think that's part of what the realism, at what level do you stop? Because how effective will it be if you don't have it as real as possible within limitation? And it was a conscious decision to do that because we didn't want to, the conversation was, we didn't want to have kids scared.
Right.
So.
See the topic, it comes up every year. It's a little bit back and forth.
Yeah, I just have heard in a couple different places that, and not just from here, but from here too, that, you know, a traumatic event, even if it's simulated, can still be traumatic.
Sure.
And, you know, if we have options, like when we have a fire drill, we don't light a corner of the building on fire. We don't simulate a fire.
When we do block exits and do the alarm, do all kinds of steel kit.
Right. I'm wondering if there's a way to practice the ability to exit without having the realism in the attacker part of it. I think everyone at this point in time, if you're in school or an adult, knows that stuff happening in a school is a reality. And so if you simulated it with just a person yelling or on a bullhorn, the idea that that's the person would still be gotten across enough for people to do the drill without actually carrying a gun or simulating gunshots. That to me, I think is a little over the line. I'm not saying don't do the drill. I'm not saying don't have the kids do what they need to do, but the realism part of it could still be very traumatic for a kid who might be stuck alone in a room and not realize what's happening at the time. And that child is still going to be, you know, afraid and traumatized by the activity. I just think it's worth maybe looking at again. That's all. I know you guys have done a lot of work, and I'm not trying to take away from everything you've done. It's something I've heard, so I think it's worth bringing up in the context.
Good, Joe.
I was actually one of the other observers right down the hall from where John was. I would actually say the bullhorn, it did, especially for high school kids. It was like, okay. I mean, there were things that happened there that I don't think would have happened if there was actual gunshots, and that doesn't help us out if we don't see what actually happens to see where these kids are. And I understand that where you're coming from, but back in the day, long time ago when I actually worked with individuals that had issues with even loud noises and fire drills and stuff like that, we actually had an individual that would sit there and they would just stand still during the fire drill. We had to try to figure out a way to get over that. And one of the ways we did go over that, we went to actually Bedford Fire Department. They have something that simulates being in a fire. And we actually did that. And she got over her fears to not just stand there, because she found out, hey, I can get out of this situation. So I think sometimes going down to a situation where we're not getting a little bit of reaction out of the students. When it really does happen, they might even overreact and not do what they're supposed to do.
I mean, the idea, I mean, I get the idea. At the end of the day, if a real situation ever occurs, all that goes out the window and people freak out. When you see it being fake, you know it's fake. People aren't they'll do what they need to do. They'll run. But they're, you know, in a fire drill, everybody walks out. If this building went on fire, people are going to do as best they can to follow those things. But I just don't know if the potential impact to some students who may not take well to that. And I'm not saying it's everybody. I'm sure there are kids who are like, nah, but I guess I just want to look at the student population and maybe do some sort of a student population poll about how do kids feel about the realism of the drill, and maybe see if there are alternatives that we can use, because I want them to be prepared, but I don't want them to be traumatized.
All right. Go ahead, Cindy.
Go ahead.
I just want to thank you for saying that, because I was always a sensitive kid, and my kids were very sensitive, and they were always like, you know, in the minority, but very, like, things did affect them, and something like that could definitely, you know, affect them in a very traumatic way. Like my kids, when they were younger, they hardly even watched TV. And if they did watch something serious, and some people might say that's wrong for a parent to protect their children for such things. Some kids have bad dreams at night, you know? And so I'm not saying anything one way or the other, but it is definitely because they are children.
Good, Joe. I forget what I was going to say. Went completely blank there for a second. So if I think about it.
All right. Something completely different, Todd. Going way back machine for you. We had talked many years ago about composting.
Yeah.
Have we revisited that in the last number of years?
Maybe the last time I came up heavy was at the elementary school, maybe 3 years ago, right after COVID.
All right. So it hasn't, because when we looked at it last time, it just wasn't going to be, I think there was cost issues and where do we put stuff and think logistics like that, correct? I mean, that was
Yeah.
prior to that, the elementary school exclusively. And the reason I bring it up is because a lot of our waste is food that we throw out, right? And I'm assuming that's the heaviest of whatever we throw out. I'm guessing. And if we take that out of a stream, then obviously the taxpayers' money, not school district, but the town taxpayers would go down. And I was just curious as to if we can put it on the docket at some point in the future, just to look at, to see if it's feasible, because things change, technologies change, and I just. Thank you. Go ahead, Joe.
I think my wife was going to say now, but we don't. For those drills that we have the active shooter, I believe parents were informed and they could.
Yeah, so hold on, like take a step back, like not an active shooter at every school. But
No, yeah.
we've gone through the elementary school was gas leak. We've done different things at different schools. We had a major, the middle school one last time was a major accident on the playground where a truck took out people. Like it's not always an active shooter thing. So, but yes, parents are informed, students are informed, everyone's informed. So it's never a surprise. There will never ever be a surprise drill, lockdown drill of any kind. There'd never be a surprise. We don't do those.
Is there a calendar or schedule for those?
If,
I don't have the date for the big drill yet in April. I have the 3 dates for the on-site drills in November. Those are already developed.
and those aren't normally released until leading up to the event, is that correct?
Yeah. The week before, so
But the parents should know that the week before.
it usually goes in the
The Friday reminder?
yeah.
We used to be Tuesday.
So,
What? Well, but people that, you know,
the parents know ahead of time.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
I don't think I knew that part. That's good. Thank you.
yeah, A big event, a fire drill, no, correct?
No, we don't do fire drills.
Right.
No, I mean,
You do fire drills.
Right.
there's
We
no-
don't have to notify ahead of fire.
Right,
We gave the date for the last drill so they, parents could opt out if they want to keep their student out, which we did have.
Oh, the census was down in the high school. I'd say a third of the students took the day.
So they have the option for that. So they can opt out.
Okay.
So they knew. And they were well informed that this is what we're gonna do.
So they
So
knew
the
that
kids could say, yep,
day.
I'm out that day. And
They
they
could-
were excused absence and,
Okay.
all right, so they were,
questions asked.
yeah, no questions asked.
I would just suggest that means about 30% of our students might fall into that overly traumatized by the event.
Well, I wouldn't jump to
Stay
that.
home.
Right.
I wouldn't jump to that conclusion.
I wouldn't say that either. I'd say most of them decided it was a nice beach day.
I think if I knew ahead of time, I wouldn't have a problem with it, but if it was a surprise.
Yeah, these are all for lack of a better way, the ones that are like that and the ones you've got scheduled in November. People know ahead of time that it's coming.
It was a dry run too in the high school. I think we talked about, so the kids knew exactly what the plan was, what the expectations were. They were kind of, wasn't it in,
Yeah, they know quite a bit.
All right.
I mean, whatever. Yeah.
Anything else for Todd?
Oh,
Go ahead, Joe.
you have any projects coming up over the winter break or anything like that did?
Let's see, what do we have going right this second? Right this second, we're working on the banners in the high school gym, which has turned into a lot more of a than I thought it would be, but
Championship printers?
yes, the championship banners, we have individual, I guess you call them individual championship banners are going up. We have, that's all getting redone. So the plan is before basketball season, the heavy use of the gym area, that'll be all squared away. We don't have anything big planned for winter break. Winter break never turns into a time to get big things done because of way it falls, beautification, and things like that. Just not, doesn't seem to ever do well. We do have the camera projects hopefully getting wrapped up on next Tuesday, the 7th, in the school. So they were waiting on some cameras that will come in. So those will be completed by end of week for that's the middle school I know actually. So that'll be wrapped up. I don't think I've had a major plans.
I know it's been looked at the schools and we do have, they're ADA compliant to doors. But some of the wheelchairs now keep getting a little bit bigger and they pretty close to hitting those metal. Have we looked at replacing any of the doors anytime in the next, I don't know, 5-10 years?
Yeah, it's in the CIP. Replace the doors. They won't be any bigger though. ADA is ADA. They can narrow to 32, which we go to 36-inch doors, are bigger anyway. But it can narrow to a 32-inch clearance, I believe, at a doorway. So, but as we upgrade, we technically should be upgrading everything to ADA every single second. But definitely, as we make adjustments or any upgrades, they become ADA compliant. But the width hasn't changed in ADA for
Quite a long time. I know. It just seems like even I was trying to push somebody. It's just,
yeah.
you can't exactly go around. You really gotta, and it's close. It's really close now.
It is what it is. I mean, I just follow the ADA rules. I don't make it any different. So
I know like the metal bars, I mean, some schools have it too. They don't have the bars there. I know that can sometimes be problematic with pushing things in. If you don't
yeah,
have.
that's how
metal bars.
the elementary school set up.
Yeah.
Because those are newer doors, so they're set up with the ADA. Yeah, the actuator, there, everything, 100% over there. Yeah. That could be,
Anything else for Todd?
Good question. Has there been discussions about like HVAC at all?
what about it?
Like, would it have ever been considered to be installed for like a high school or something, or is that even feasible?
Are you talking about specific areas?
Air conditioning?
Yes.
Yeah, so the high school has a full HV system, has AC in some areas. That's what the controls are. It was almost 500,000 up to 8 all those controls. There's heavy discussion on air conditioning. Our next thing of the year about actually talks about adding dehumidification to the entire high school. So you'll see that. So yeah, but it's a big topic.
I know. Had so many students, like the English. An oven.
It's pretty good fire out. What do you want to do?
No,
I graduated around myself. I sat there.
right?
I know all about it.
I've been trying, dude. I've been trying.
Yes, it's been discussed. We'll talk about it next with Mike.
Yeah, and the other thing, Tyler, is as Mr. Ledoux said, was that you'll be hearing more information about something potentially doing for the whole school. But right now in the capital improvement project, which you'll learn more about, but it's basically a savings account for the district. We are allocating money for those specific classrooms in the high school, the English wing for AC, but that will change if we do something different with what's coming up next, but just an FYI.
Okay. Good to know. Thank you.
Right.
Good question.
Thanks, Todd. All right, next up. Energy efficient investments. Todd and Mr. Davy. Back.
I have a handout.
Okay.
Hopefully I have enough. I emailed it to you too. I don't know if you need to, share it in any way electronically. Yeah, that looks like I got the right number. Electronically?
Yeah, nope, I got it.
So I think there's I'm sorry, in front of that microphone. So there's a few people who weren't here last time. So just a high level recap. EEI has been working with the school district on improving the infrastructure and upgrade and ways to save energy since 2017, 2016. We brought forward at the last board meeting some energy conservation and facility improvement ideas for all three schools. That included gas boilers, LED lighting, solar panels, replacing the ventilation units and adding dehumidification to the high school, as Tyler had mentioned. And we also had similar improvements at the elementary school and middle school. Based on feedback at the last board meeting, we removed everything from the elementary school to just focus on the high school and middle school. And we broke out the replacing the air hand number 11 from the high school, which was replacing all the air handlers at the high school and adding dehumidification and energy recovery units. So more energy efficient units. That was 3.8 million. So we broke that out. And lastly, we looked at an option to do a dried wood chip in lieu of propane as the primary fuel source. So looking at the total options, we have option one, which are the sort of the energy projects, which would include propane boilers at both the high school and middle school, LED lights, solar at the high school, electrical transformer upgrades. That project would be about 4.4 million, would save 214,000 every year in energy costs, and would get 1 million in potential grants and rebates. The high school ventilation project alone is 3.8 million. There are energy savings associated with that. However, most of the savings are eaten up because we're adding essentially cooling. So we're going to save gas or propane, but you're going to kind of offset that by cooling. So it's sort of as a net wash in energy to do dehumidification. So we had, and then I kind of broke it out in two ways with Elise. And I will say we're continuing to do engineering on this. So these aren't final numbers. We'll have those in December. But what they are to kind of think about how, could they be in the budget? Could they be separate warrant articles? Then I said, what would that look like if you were to finance those things? So I'll just kind of, below we have the two total options in bold. I have what the budget impact would be for each project. So for option one, which is the yellow item, 4.4 million, you would borrow 3,394,000. And the difference is you're subtracting out the rebates and grants. So the project would be 4.4, but you're subtracting 1 million in grants and rebates. your annual lease payment with a 15-year lease at 5.5% would be 332,000. And your budget impact would be 118,000. So if you were to put this in the budget, the way you would do that is you would add a lease line for 330,000, but you would reduce your energy expenditures by 214,000. As a simple, and it's very simple the year after it's completed. The year during construction, it's not as straightforward a number as that because the solar systems aren't installed for the full year. So it would be a variation of that. So normally, let's just say hypothetically, this project were to pass in the budget in 24. You'd do some fraction of that in the 24 budget. And this is what the 25 budget would look like, 25, 26. So if the full project was, so sometimes the first lease payment would be much smaller in this year's budget. So if it passed in 24, it would be less and the impact would be in the 25, 26 budget more significantly. But that's a sort of a mechanic that we'll have to work out. The other thing is if you were to do the same project, so skip down essentially 2 lines, we have option 1 with a 20-year. So that's the same project. So you're still borrowing 3,394,000. Your lease payments will be less because it'll be essentially a 20-year mortgage instead of a 15. It'll be 280,000 a year lease payment. So your budget impact will be 65,000 under this scenario. Because again, you'd be subtracting 214,000 in savings. Under option 2, I ran those with both a 15 and a 20-year lease option. So that's for the high school dehumidification project. That would cost 3.8 million. There's really no energy savings. So your lease payment, which would be 377,000 a year with a 15-year lease, or 322,000 a year with a 20-year lease, is just a straight budget impact. You pretty much, like I said, you're going to save some gas, but it's going to be offset by some increase in electricity. So I think we were asked to make that a separate. So the last time when I brought this whole package forward, those 2 items were combined. So it was one $7 or $8 million project. So now we've adjusted it to include to make those 2 separate things. So theoretically, you could do the lower budget impact project if you could do them both as warrants, but you could do the one that, only impacts your budget by 65,000. That could theoretically be done in the budget. And the other project, adding ventilation and dehumidification, could be a separate warrant article, or they could both be separate warrant articles. Lastly, and I know I'm throwing a lot of information at you, and we're not looking for final decisions tonight, but just to keep moving the ball forward and keeping you guys in the loop with the process. In lieu of doing propane boilers at the high school, middle school, we're in the process of, per the board's direction, applying for a wood chip or wood pellet grant. Under that scenario, it would be a $2.5 million boiler project at both schools with 49,000 in annual savings and an $800,000 grant from the state of New Hampshire if you were to win that. So that would be the sort of increased cost. But if you were to look at how this would impact the package, I deducted, so I made them negative, the cost for the propane primary system of 1.6. We would deduct the savings of 25,000 from the propane and the grant of 60,000. So instead, looking at this would be an alternate version of option 1, which would be a $5.3 million project. Your energy savings go up to 238,000. The rebates and grants go up to 1,780,000. So they increase by essentially the 800, just about the 800,000. And your payback, your simple payback goes down to 14.8 years. So that's kind of the simple payback is just if you weren't going to finance it, if you were going to pay for it in cash, you would spend 5.3 million, you'd receive 1.7 in grants, and it would pay for itself in 14 years. Obviously, we have interest involved, so that's why That's why we're showing that if you finance it with 20 years, it still has a $60,000 increase, $65,000 increase to the budget because the interest costs are spread out over the 20 years. So I don't think there's any action item, but I think we were asked by the board to kind of take out the elementary school, add in a wood chip or a wood pellet option. And so those are the real net changes that we have.
Questions? I know Steve has one.
So I was one of the folks who wasn't here last time.
Yep.
What were the additional costs for the elementary school? Do you remember? I know, if you don't have it offhand, I'm sorry. It just doesn't-
It looks like, John, do you have it? Okay.
At the elementary school ballpark, well, he has it. LED lighting, 180,000. Building envelope, 30,000. HVAC controls, 225. Gas, boiler, basically 650. Transformers, 13,000. And heating, library heating zone and heat, 350. So 1.4 for.
And
Board decided at that time that because of the potential of doing something different at the elementary school, the board decided not to do anything there.
Yeah, I was just sorry. I was just curious. I
Mhm.
didn't know what that total was.
Go ahead, Tony.
I know we discussed wood chip storage last time. Let's talk about a silo.
Yep.
So what would be the added cost for that? Is that included? All right,
so this is a turnkey, everything they do. System.
roughly how big would that be and where would it go? And how do you get the wood chips from that into the,
So we
Burner.
got, one particular company come out with their guy and we looked at the high school would look similar to where the the parking system is. It would sit on that side of the building. Middle school one would sit sort of where the oil tank is sticking out of the ground now on the back side of the building. They get filled with the truck via hose, blows them in, then they get augered into the building via the auger system.
it would have to be close enough to the unit to,
Yes.
Facilitate that.
And in general, the way these systems work is the savings is great. But one thing, wood boilers definitely need a bit more maintenance than gas boilers. I mean, if you put in a gas boiler in, you do like an annual maintenance once a year, and unless you have a specific problem, you don't touch it. These wood boilers, every 1,000 hours you have to shut them down and do a full cleaning of all the tubes, and there are more moving parts with them. So, with that, we included in this number of 2.5 is a backup propane system. So it wouldn't be as robust a propane system as included in sort of the base project, the $4 million project, but we have a backup propane system and would have propane tanks so that on an extremely cold day or the day where you're going to shut the wood off for cleaning, you have a backup system that's capable of running the entire school. If we were to do a propane system here at the high school, I'd have 2 propane boilers, each that could essentially do the school. So if one goes down, you have the other. With the wood option, I have 1 wood, 1 propane. So if either can go down, you can still heat the school.
Good, Joe.
How much does it cost to service them every 41.5 days?
So there's two scenarios. I will say the 1,000 hours is just during the heating season, so it's a little bit less than you'd think. It's probably 3 cleanings a year. But that's a 4-hour activity. And then in addition, every week you do have to take the ash out of the system and it's not a huge amount. It could fit in it's less than a wheelbarrow, but more than a 2-gallon bucket of paint. But it's a manageable size. Kind of like a kitchen trash, I think is about the size. And you do have to dispose of that somewhere. But it's people, like farmers like it for their field as a fertilizer. It's a good thing to dispose of. And if you guys are strongly interested in the wood system, we installed one 6 or 7 years ago at John Stark High School in Ware. And we have a lot. We have Plymouth High School, we have Conant High School. I would encourage you guys to take a tour of John Stark High School, just so you see what, or at least sometimes, because it's a pretty cool system, but it's just good to fully understand what the whole system looks like and feels like.
I guess that would be my thing, like Todd, since you're the one that would be maintaining it. Do you like the idea of the wood chip thing or?
I don't know. I like the old school propane boilers, but they don't make them anymore. We have to do the high fruits of propane. Either one is kind of a little out of our league as far as maintaining and working on them. So it's a little bit risky, but not risky. It is what it is. The old school boiler we tinker with, but I don't know.
What I would say is,
So the wood chip's gonna be, it's nice. I think it sounds great. I think it could save money in the very long run, but I do worry about the moving parts and the maintenance on it. Whatever works well.
I do think it's worth taking this tour of this John Stark because it's not that far. And what I will say is you do of our customers. So maybe if you're on oil, probably 60 or 70% of our customers decide to go to wood. And then the other 30 or so percent go propane. The customers that the community supports wood and the facilities team likes it, generally love it. If you're neutral about it, I would tell you to do propane. If you kick the tires on John Stark or Plymouth or Conant and you're like, boy, this is a great system, and because the savings is better in the long run, but it is a little bit of a labor of love, meaning there's more work. If you put in a propane, you really don't have to touch it. I think, Terry, did you do wood at some districts recently?
No, I have one in my house,
Oh, just your house?
pellet boiler. It is a little bit.
Yeah.
Clean it twice a year and every 3 months I gotta take the ashes out.
Does it run any different than like a regular pellet stove?
No, well, yeah, because I don't touch a thing. The truck comes, augers in, I got a 3-ton hopper in my basement, augers it into and I don't touch it, except take the ashes out, and I have a guy clean it twice a year. I think once a year, actually, because we don't burn it. And then I do have a slave propane in case if it gets 20 below,
Yeah.
it might kick on, but it's never kicked on because it hasn't gotten that cold. But I have it there just in case. You know,
I've never heard of wood pellets for a boiler. That's why I was asking.
yeah, it's pretty cool. Yeah. My wife lost her mind when we had to buy propane. I'm not paying for this house. And so she did the research, and we also got a grant through the state and they paid quite a bit of it. So I think within 3 years that we paid it off and it's paid for itself in the amount of heat we've saved. I think I go through 6 tons a year in pellets. I want to say maybe $1,000 for delivery. That's it. $900. So $2,000 to heat my house. And I keep it at 72.
So that's,
Square feet,
Huh?
how many square feet?
Close to 3.
You can see the dress then.
Yeah, look.
Check it out.
you're gonna go away for an extended time and it's not there when you get back.
Well, it's quite because it's forced hot water.
Yeah.
And so
So it's your hot water.
to plumb it in, it's cheaper to go forced hot air, but mine was forced hot water. So it was a lot of plumbing.
And this, I guess, is for both of you. This is heat and hot water. This is not just
Replace basically an oil burner.
replaces the whole system. Okay.
The system that we proposed here for the 2.5, it's capable of doing pellets or a semi-dry wood chip that is a factory in Keene that takes the wood chips that are the byproducts of furniture making. They kiln dry them in Keene, and then they dry them here and blow them into the silo. That'll probably happen like 10 to 12 times a winter per school.
I didn't hear a price on the maintenance part of it, how much it was.
Okay, yeah, so I would think it's an additional 2,500 to 3,500 to have an outside company do the maintenance. If you train the high school staff, like in Plymouth, they do all that in-house. In Belmont, which is Shaker, and Canterbury, they do all that subcontracted. So it depends on how much your in-house staff
Comfort level.
comfort level is, yeah.
Good, Steve.
Is that total per year or per
Total
cleaning?
Per year,
Per year.
per year, per school. Per year, per school.
How do you feel about cleaning it up?
It's dirty,
I
man.
mean, my guys are all for it. They're into this stuff, so they wouldn't be a huge sell, but I'd like to see it first, in my own eyes, and do the training.
So, and
Road trip, let's go, Todd.
I will tell you this, like, we put in most of my system, and I think this is actually a nice time of year to, like, Plymouth or John Stark, because they're up and running, so you can actually see them in motion. Most of my customers like them. I have two customers I don't want to say in public, but I can tell you off, or one district with two buildings where they don't maintain them because the facilities team was against it and it was the business manager's idea. And they don't like the system. So if you toured that one, which we could tour that one too, but if you don't maintain these systems, they don't work well. So that's
Shocking.
Get a worst case scenario situation, right?
Oh, yeah. Go ahead, Cindy.
So when do you get like one whole shipment of the wood pellets for the whole year, or do you have to get refills?
no, it's like 10 to 12 deliveries a year.
Oh,
Depends on how cold the winter is.
yeah.
Um,
I was just wondering if that would be easier to get like a stash than oil coming, or propane comes like once a week or something. So
How often do we get 'em? Not often, right? Oil for the high school and middle school?
3 to 4 times.
oh, okay.
If we were to go the wood, whatever we buy, whatever version, what I didn't understand, Mike, was what would that add to the cost
So
for the lease? Did you do a calculation for that?
for the lease,
Yeah,
it would be, so I didn't do that. I can do that. What I can tell you is if you're looking, it's obviously going to increase the borrowing amount.
Yep.
But it's going to decrease the budget impact because the simple payback of option one in yellow was 15.8. And the simple payback for the bigger project,
it's a year less.
14.8.
Yeah.
It's going to be marginally less. Not, huge amount, because it's a difference in payback of about a year. And so if you look at what a year's payment was, just kind of as a more,
Yeah, the 15-year, the annual lease was 332,000, but basically 333,000.
yeah.
What I'm looking for is, do you have an flavor as to what the lease would be if we went the wood?
If you give me 10 minutes, I can do it. I can bang out the calculation. I didn't do that real quick, and I can email it, but the net budget impact is going to be very similar. It's going to be slightly better. I would guess that instead of and this is just me guessing.
Yep.
But I think option one with a 20-year lease is going to be something like, instead of a $65,000 budget impact, it'll probably be something like a $55,000 budget impact. The lease will go up, but the energy savings will go up as well. And I would guess that instead of the 118, it'll be something like 108, or, it's going to be in the same order of magnitude budget impact.
Obviously, dollars and cents, right? I mean,
Yeah.
that's how decisions are driven, and a lot of voters vote with their pocketbook. So
Yeah, and
that's why I was asking, just getting the flavor. So
I'll email you that after.
yeah, I appreciate that. Is there obviously, if we were to go in the direction, if we're still interested in wood, then a field trip would be required, I think, at least Todd, right? To get your comfort level or lack of comfort for it.
Yes, I've seen this at the trade shows. We looked at them and talked to the guys, talked about the
Yep.
different, all like line to it, but I'd never actually seen the system work.
Is there any reservations other than from what we've heard tonight, just going with the wood versus propane? And I'm just Because if we have reservations about the wood, then I don't want to make people do more work, like I said last time. If, if people just say, hey, we're just not for us as a board or administration, I'd rather hear that now than trying to put more work into something that we know we're not gonna be in favor of. Does that make sense?
I'm quite honestly in favor of the wood because it's renewable. I think it's going to be something that, Europe is using a lot of. I think it's just a matter of time with the price of propane and gas and oil being so volatile. I think wood
But that drives the price of wood up.
eventually,
Right.
a lot of trees. The United States has got more forest in it now than 1850. And they have more regulations on, you cut a tree, you plant a tree.
Mhm.
And you don't have to just use trees. There's systems that use corn stalks.
Well, paper.
Well, that's wood, but they take the corn, they compress it now. There's systems in Europe that, you put a converter in and you can burn corn stalks. And the Midwest is full of that. Not that I would know, but
Go ahead, Joe.
I know with the energy efficient propane boilers, they were having some issues with them. A couple of years back. They solved those issues yet, or?
I haven't had, so usually when we do with propane systems, there's a little bit of startup problems. And when you first get it running, and I'll just say, most of the boilers in the world are designed for natural gas and they use the same product for propane. And so the gas pressure that when you very first started, the first couple months of winter, sometimes it does trip out until you get the propane regulation dialed in. After that, we really have not had significant problems with our gas boilers. And, I know Todd's come out to what we've done in Manchester, but for the last 10 years, every year I've done at least one school in Manchester. And we haven't had any like major issues at any of them or premature failures. So like we've been doing one a year for 10 years in Manchester. So we've got half the district converted at this point and haven't had one, gotta keep knocking on wood, significant problem.
Yeah, the district I talked to and looked at had some major problems with propane, but due to whether it was just poor maintenance or lack of knowledge upon installation. Like they had rushed them, didn't put it in right, and it really wasn't overseen very well. They just kind of pushed it through, so I don't suspect I won't have those issues.
The boilers that we would use for like everything else, there's higher levels of quality. The boilers we would, the boilers we would use for the high school and middle school are going to be very robust commercial boilers. They're like the Lochinvar Crest is the product. If you Google it, it's just a very robust commercial made in America product. And we've had good
Can you
luck.
say that again?
Lochinvar, LOCHINVAR, Crest, CREST. And so that's what it's less exciting, but if you wanted to look at some of those.
I'm very excited.
Yeah.
I'm gonna do water.
For the wood boilers, what's the life expectancy of those?
So they say 20, but it's actually the same technology as your current oil boilers at the high school. They're cast iron sectional boilers, so they could go for 50. Like the boilers themselves are robust boilers. You've gotten almost 40 something out of the high school students. So.
So I guess the first question is I assume we're still going in the direction of we want to continue looking at this, the option one. It's just a matter of propane and still looking at wood or just propane. Because I think that's an important question because obviously Mike will get us numbers if we're still interested in wood. And I think it benefit us if at least Todd went up and visited one to kick the tires, so to speak. I don't want to go through that exercise if we're going to say we're not interested. So for the board's sake,
I'm all for wood.
Steve.
I just had a question because I just want to make sure I'm understanding the numbers. On the wood chip, you have a deduct 1.625. I guess for the propane, but you said we will have a backup propane. Are we spending more than 1.6 million in propane?
That's for the LP boilers.
If you look up above, the
That's right, yeah.
875,000 at the high school is for 2 new gas boilers and oil tank removal. And then at the middle school, 750,000 is for the same.
That's
type
to
of thing.
add boilers and remove the old stuff.
So what he did was he just took those out of the equation. The 1.625.
Okay, because we would just leave the old ones in place.
No, that's taking them out of the yellow, I believe. See the yellow?
Right. Is that the cost of it?
2 new gas boilers, oil tank removal, and that just replaces those in the
Trying to
estimate.
figure the best way to show
No,
it.
it's fine.
No, it's okay, because it's gonna cost us 2.5, but you're removing the cost of the 1.625.
That's only when you're looking at my option one above, which is so the 4.4 includes 1,625,000 for 2 new gas boilers at the high school and middle school. But if you put in the wood primary system, you don't need to do that anymore. So if the net, when starting at the 4,400,000, you add 2.5 to do the wood system, but you can take 1.6 out because you don't need 4 boilers.
So in essence, you're adding ballpark 900,000 to the 4.4.
I could have showed it that way. Maybe that would have been.
Okay,
1,000 in
so
grant.
what, you did say there's a propane backup. What's is that 2.5?
That is built into the price.
That's in the 2.5? Okay. That's what that's what was not showing. Okay.
Just be clear, all this is turnkey.
Yeah.
Regardless of what option we're looking at, solar panels and everything else is good to go, and then maintaining is on us. So is everybody okay continuing the conversation with Wood?
I have a quick question.
Go ahead, Tyler.
What would maintenance look like for like the exterior silo? Is that,
Nothing.
Nothing.
It's just,
it's just a,
Big galvanized
the big
silo.
yes. Yeah.
okay.
Hit it with a big stick every now and
Paint
then.
a ram,
Huh?
I'll paint a ram on it.
Would be a good.
Would that be ours or are we leasing that?
That would
silo?
increase the maintenance, so we won't be.
You give it to one of the art classes, Todd, you make it a
Yeah.
project.
Yeah.
That always ends well.
I gotta show you, I gotta show you the Dum Dum Sucker water tower in Bryan.
So
I gotta show you.
what do
Art
we,
contest.
I gotta show you that.
what do we need to do for the next step? I guess I'll ask Todd and Mike as to what do we need? Do you need anything from us at this point?
Blessing.
Continue, I guess. I haven't heard anybody say stop, so. So when can we expect more information back so that we have better understanding as to what are we proposing?
The remaining steps are, that we're doing are, I have a gentleman coming tomorrow to the high school to do a room by room walkthrough with Todd to look at the lighting and improving the exterior, site lighting. So we're doing that tomorrow. So that the lighting number is likely to be revised up or down, depends on how this walkthrough goes. And my solar engineer is working on 2 options to bring forward, 1 ground mount, 1 roof mount. And we'll have those. And my recommendation would be, we need to get you this information before you set the final budget and all that and warrant articles. So, I would think, a December board meeting is normally,
And just an FYI, our budget will be going to the budget committee right around Thanksgiving.
okay,
But what we will do is we will inform them that we've got this looming
Yep.
potentially out there.
Yep.
And, you know, timing is what it is. We can't do anything about it.
Yep.
But just so that they'll be aware of whatever, if anything, we're potentially looking at.
Yep.
So they'll be aware of that.
but I would just say, does this body meet weekly or every other week? Or-
We meet traditionally the first and third Wednesday of each month.
Or the first, second, third and fourth or whatever.
We're gonna be on a roll here.
Sometimes on a Tuesday, every once in a while Friday.
We're doing a few others, so.
I have a potential conflict on this, which is December 6th. And so the next one is December 20th. Is that enough time? 'Cause I think that's the 3rd.
I would venture to say no. And the reason I would say that is because if we need to do anything on our end,
Yep.
our public hearings for the budget committee, usually the first week of January, right?
So,
So I don't think that would be,
okay, is there another November meeting coming up?
we have one on the 15th.
So,
And definitely not the week after, but potentially if you said, hey, you know, the week of the 27th, we might be able to do something. But, you know, we don't know until we ask if people are available.
so I would say, I know I can't do December 6th.
Yep.
So I would say, for me, if you're comfortable meeting at an extra meeting in late November, or I'll try and just get what I can get for the November 15th, knowing that it'll be real close, but it's, you know, we'll get as much as we can for that day.
What would the board want to do? How long of a meeting would you need from us, Mike?
Similar to this, I think the next
Oh, if we said an hour ballpark,
hour, yeah.
because we've got to hear from you and then we've got to make
Yep.
decisions, right?
Yep.
So
I'm good with that day.
in late November, the week of, what's that?
The 29th, I have the 29th on there, but unless somebody wants to make a different day, but
You're saying the 29th?
yeah.
Okay, I thought at first you said 28th and I just wanted to say. So is it people available the 29th? Looking at my administrator.
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, well, I just want to make sure. Marjorie's got enthusiasm written all over her.
Marjorie said do meetings every week. She loves it.
Loves the opportunity.
Not every night.
So is the board available the 29th,
Of what month now?
November?
Nothing written down yet.
Cindy?
On the 20th.
I'm always available.
Well, I just want to, you know,
And you know.
It's okay, yeah.
Any kind of,
no, absolutely.
I gotta check with the real
Yeah, I
boss.
think our budget presentation scheduled for the 28th now.
Yeah.
These days,
Snow date on,
30th?
Yeah. So we'll schedule the 29th of November at 6, Mike, and
Okay.
I'm assuming Todd, you're available also.
And,
Thank you. Anything else before we let Mike go?
Yeah,
Go ahead.
the dehumidification units. Is there any rebates for those out there at all? Or?
yes, there should be some, and I'll include that. I'll include that in the, it's not gonna wow you, compared to the cost, but it wouldn't shock me if we could get like 60 or 80 grand.
Which one, Joe?
Dehumidify. And
Oh,
the
okay.
reason why I'm asking is because in my mind, I have two things in mind. Having the yellow on one article and then placing the stuff for the high school, because we have had many complaints about how hot it is in it. Other one article, so they can choose. I mean, hopefully we do both, but that's just my idea.
Well, the downside of doing that is people say, I can't afford all these. I'm voting no on every one of them. And I hear people do it all the time. You know, that's the downside of giving all these options. So, but we'll have a conversation on the 29th.
I'll just have one kind of food for thought between now and the 29th. If you decide to do either option as a separate warrant article, as opposed to in the budget, I would recommend we do, and we'll be happy to take the lead on this, a robust, voter information. Because in something like 2017 or 18, we brought a project like this forward here in Raymond and it failed. And I think it was because the voter, this is just my opinion, who know, I think they read, oh, you know, $3 million, $5 million. Whereas they didn't understand the way the warrant article itself was written. They didn't convey that, hey, a huge amount of this is paid for by energy savings. So I think we have to just try and educate the public. that, hey, if it's a 4.4 million or 5.2, yes, there's a budget impact, but it's end of life stuff. And so some of the things we've done for other districts are create educational videos and ask about like that shows the conditions of the current systems and what the new ones would look like and try and find ways, you know, whether you ask the PTO to send it out or if you guys have a more effective way to get that out. So they just know what they're voting on.
Yeah, I would say that regardless of how we, whether it's in a separate warrant article or in the budget, we'd want to be able to fully articulate whatever it is to the voter, just as in any other item that we have in our budget. So everybody all set? Thanks, Mike. Thanks, Todd. Send us a postcard from wherever you go, Todd.
I got lunch, so I get to go too.
I hear those boilers are really hot.
I need a board member along with you.
Oh, geez.
Me too.
They're right in the back, Tom.
Next up, school facility rental fees. This is something by policy we need to revisit each year. And we are revisiting.
Before we start, I have a question. Now, how much do we actually make on this?
I know. Odd.
Odd.
Odd. Facility rentals.
And you thought you were free to go.
5 minutes.
Sorry. When we're talking about rental fees,
Well, if he needs,
how often are people coming in and paying us rental fees for the facilities, media center?
Very rarely.
That's what I was gonna answer, but I just wanted to be sure.
Because I don't know if you know, but every year we're supposed to revisit. We're revisiting tonight.
I'm trying
Now,
to,
what about right now we charge $30 an hour for custodial and food service for those individuals that rent. Does that cover our costs?
I believe it does.
Is that per
Per
individual?
it's per person, correct?
Wait a minute.
So if I need 3 custodians for my event, it's
Yeah,
30.
fine.
Okay. So if I need a food service and a custodian,
That's two.
And that's 60.
that's 60.
And the reason I ask the question is because per policy, it hasn't been updated since, we haven't changed prices in 14 years. And I just want to make sure that we're not losing money on the deal. The other side of me is saying, we haven't changed prices in 14 years, and maybe it's the time to increase, but
We get very little usage, and the custodian they get is sub custodian. That's why you're not paying, they don't carry health insurance.
Right.
They're not the highest paid employees we have in the district.
Mhm.
And they very, very rarely get utilized. It's
worth the effort. All right, go ahead, Cindy.
Yeah, cause this came up. I had a friend that, was, I think, renting maybe this room, one of the rooms for like a community group in town.
Sure.
So is there a qualification for like, if you're a town committee type thing that you would waive the fee, or is it just for every?
There's a list right here.
Town sponsored activity, like the meetings and recreation stuff. Other than that, they typically don't get billed for anything unless it's brought to the superintendent of the board and they decide to waive it. They don't waive fees, that I can remember ever, or very often. It's a slippery slope. I think we get into that because everyone's trying to do the right thing for their own group, or everyone has their own thing and they think it's fair. And it just, I don't want that. I don't think that's what the school is used for. Had in the past fundraising groups where it's just trying to raise funds, but it's great for that group, but one group may not think that's right, that you can facility for that. So I try to keep it as tight as possible to the policy.
Joe, did you have something?
Yeah, but after what he said, because I was actually gonna sit there and say, what happens if we didn't have a fee for people that live, or groups that were organizations inside of Raymond, but he kind of made a good point there.
Slippery slope.
And you never charge anybody, like everybody.
Well, just outside, I mean, if you're from
Yeah.
Manchester and want to come use it.
What we got to remember is, as Todd mentioned, if they're part of the town or the school, it's free. Rec department, free. Boy Scouts, free.
Yeah, student activities like that. Then
Yep.
Yep. But if I wanted.
But if I have I know in presidential campaigns have come into town and used facilities, they pay.
So if I want to have
I want to have a knitting
if
club.
I want to do a bubble hockey tournament downstairs.
Fundraisers come quite a bit. I mean, that's really like, very fun for this certain thing. I'll probably go through, but it's not considered waivable.
Yeah.
Or you got a request for birthday parties, you got a request for, all
The celebration of life.
celebration of life, had requests for, and it's, I mean, The other good thing to do is say, yeah, no problem, come on in, Terry, like your Raymond, your access, you also had it, but then. We set precedent where you draw them.
Yep.
The buildings are heavily used after hours as it is. And it's wear and tear, and it's not always wear and tear of the people doing activity. They sometimes come with little ones and run around and do other things throughout the building. So like I said, it's just a slippery slope. So we try to keep it as safe as policy as possible.
Anybody else? All right, I think we need to take action. So if somebody could make a motion to approve the fees as presented, if that's the direction we want to do.
I'll make a motion that we approve the fees as they are.
Get a second?
I'll second it. I have a question.
Go ahead, Joe.
Do we have to do it the same way as we do policies?
In what manner?
First reading, second.
No, we just have to, it's like when we revisit certain policies, we just have to, in this case, we just have to take action that would.
Okay.
In this case, keeping the same fee. Go ahead, Jen.
And in this case, I think this policy is actually up for first reading right after this.
Coincidentally.
Oh, yeah.
I also have a
Oh
question.
goodness, it is.
Go ahead.
You good? Well, do we have to take action if we're going to first reading and second reading anyhow? Because wouldn't that just be the policy?
Well, for me, I think it's just because it's the yearly, it's just coincidental that we should take action because that's what the policy calls us to do. Tony?
So what's the time frame that I get the media center for $100?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Isn't it written?
I don't see it anywhere. I could be missing it, but I don't see it.
I think it's in the other policy, the whole policy.
You think KF?
What did you
And not to be too silly.
How
and
long do I get it for?
Yeah.
Is that like an 8-hour
An
rental
hour,
or
2
2 hours, or if I need it for the whole day, is that
Per
is that
hour.
additional cost?
I assume this is considered one of the media centers.
This right here, yeah.
This is yes to you, I don't want to answer yours.
So if I want to come in here and just read the physics book for 12 hours, would it cost
To the camera.
$100 or, yeah, I'm gonna read it out loud. The history of Raymond. I'll start there.
I'm trying to go through it, but it's.
Got it right now.
Maybe it's not good. It's usually per, I mean, just benefit per function, I guess.
Yeah, like just however long,
That's how it's been for.
Not- after
So if
9.
somebody wants it for an hour or 3 hours, it's one price set fits all.
Yeah, we've never, I guess you could call us out on it. So 24 hours.
Yeah, you're not getting rid of me now. $100 I
No,
live here.
say.
Live large.
That'll be less than rent in some cities.
Take that gym for $250.
But yeah. And keep in mind, these activities are only able to use the facilities after the school decides they don't need it, or the town function decides they don't need it. So some of the years are hard to come by when people actually want them, like a gym.
And for example, the easy one is first Wednesday of the month, you can't use the high school media center.
Sure.
Easy one, so. All right, so we've got a motion to approve the fees as presented in the policy, and we've got a second. Any other questions, comments? All those in favor? Aye. Maybe I didn't.
Yes.
Okay. Motion passes unanimously. Thanks, Todd. Sorry to drag you back in.
I could stick with first reading the question.
Thank you. Next up, new revised policy first reading. Policy KF-R, use of school facilities. Questions, comments on that? Go ahead, Joe.
Surprisingly. So, would it be beneficial because now, I mean, if you're having one. Go back, go all the way down here. Yeah, I saw it.
We're trying to close up my loophole.
You have a new tenant over there, Chrissy.
Christmas party, all day.
That's it.
Okay, I see. Would it be beneficial if we put a limit on,
The length?
Yeah.
What's your thought, Todd?
I don't know. It's never been an issue because it's usually per function, but it could be an issue. I guess we did it for 4 hours, maybe. I don't know.
If it hasn't been an issue, let's just assume it's not going to be. Because eventually the school's gotta close. I mean, they can't go past 9 or 10 or whatever, because
Well,
I know
voting
they're
day we
standing there
do.
waiting for us to read
Well,
every time.
Could be that Saturday morning party. That's made you know all day.
They might move out to the parking lot after 10. Who knows?
Is there a time at which anyone has to be out? We have to be out by 10? Like anybody has to be out by 10?
Well,
Maybe not us,
not the board, school board,
Well,
but
well,
everybody else pretty much 10 o'clock.
but yeah, I know.
But so, I've been,
Except
obviously for a
for,
renter,
as Cindy mentioned, elections.
Right.
Elections.
Yeah, I know on Mondays they want us out usually by 10 or so, like
Mhm.
that's pushing it.
I hope they kick us out in just about 5 minutes.
Well, I mean, and on the paperwork where it's talking about the request for use, I mean,
Where is it?
to indicate the amount of hours,
What page you on?
6 of 10.
Thank you.
Form, so.
I thought that was more for like if you had to,
Okay.
pick up duty because you got paid.
Starting at
30
the desired day of week, and then how many hours, and it's asking for the start and end time. So we're kind of being made aware.
Yeah, so if somebody says,
12,
I've got December 23rd through
yeah.
December 31st, $100. please."
$100.
And these are not, this isn't like, these have to be approved, but also we can deny it. So we have to get proper insurance and all that kind of stuff.
I'm good, thank you. All right. Anybody else? All right. Next one. Thanks, Todd.
Thanks, Todd.
JH, attendance absenteeism and truancy. This one is, changes. Any questions, comments about this one? I do know. No, that's the next one, sorry.
Yeah.
Anything on this one? All right, next up, JHC, student release precautions. Now, this one, I know that we had a email raising concern about thinking that the parent actually physically has to be here to release a high school student under this scenario. And that's not the intent, but I can see where that's, as it says, number 1 on page 1, students will only be released to a parent, guardian, or written designee of the parent or guardian, or to other individuals or agencies as permitted or required by law. But, for example, here at the high school, the kids get released all the time without parent there. So that's what the situation was brought to our attention.
That was a concern that a student would be able to go to a doctor's appointment.
Whatever,
Or
you
drive
know, a
themselves.
senior,
Right.
for example, they get to leave if they have study hall the last period, they get to leave early dismissal, no questions asked. Well, as long, I think there's approval process, but after that. So I guess my question is there a way to clean this up so that,
Well, the
Clear.
principal is authorized to establish additional procedures necessary to ensure the proper and safe release of students. Such procedures must adhere to the following rules. So they also have, they can,
right, but I just want to make sure that the policy
I think
is
it's,
clearer, I think, in my mind. So because if we have one person reading it and I can see where the person's coming from, when I read it as a policy committee, I didn't even think about that, but I can see where it is. Go ahead, Tony, and then Tyler.
I think it's the part where it says here, will only be released to the parent.
Right.
Right? So if we could figure out the, release her written
Yep.
permission or something like
Because
that.
it only really applies to high school, right? Because my guess is we're not releasing middle school or elementary school kids
I hope that.
without parent.
Imagine that would be true of freshman and sophomore too.
I don't
They're
know.
not, I mean, you can't drive till what? We
Well, they
still
can
at 15?
walk, though.
Can't 16. I've had my license for too long.
16.
what if an aunt shows up? Got written authorization to pick the kid up.
Right, but the issue is right now, I'm a 17-year-old senior. I have my license, I have a car, and I have a doctor's appointment at noon. I need to leave at 11:30. My mom or dad doesn't need to come and get me right now. And the way the policy reads it, you could almost interpret that.
I have to look, I think it might be another policy, but if that kid was just to get in his car and leave, we call the parent.
Well, what I mean is if they have a release, that's the key, right?
Yeah.
If they can't leave on their own, it's with a written.
Yeah.
But it just says that maybe,
It almost reads like they have to be released to that parent's custody.
right,
Or to someone who has been written
Right,
authorization,
like,
but it has to be to a person.
right.
Sounds
And that's certainly not the intent or what past practice has been here at the high school.
Can we look at number 3?
Sure.
Students who are 17 years old and living independently and student, well, it's 18.
Yeah.
16-year-old student.
16, 17-year-olds.
but this doesn't apply if they talk about someone that lives at home.
Right.
Like I said, if my student is 17, drives himself to school, has a doctor's appointment, the way this reads, I have to come here and physically have him released to me
I guess what
before
I'll,
he can leave to go to his appointment. So I would have to be here to escort him out the building.
and that's and when we did it on policy, we certainly didn't see that, but I can see where somebody sees it now and says, yeah. So if the board's okay, if we could have the administration come up with a proposed solution between now and our second reading on the 15th.
Do we have current language or no?
Well, let's not even try to wordsmith this tonight. I hope not anyways.
Take forever.
Does that work, Carrie? Yep. Okay. Everybody okay with that?
Sure. Yeah.
And thank you to that individual for bringing that to our attention.
Speaker?
Oh, I'm sorry. Tyler, did you have something? I'm sorry.
I was just gonna say, I think, I remember a couple kids going like, the first sentence is what caught them. It's like, school district staff will not permit a student to leave school during the school day unless the student is accompanied by the student's parents.
All right,
And that's like,
that's even more. to the
Yeah,
point.
that's like-
Yeah,
wait, what?
right.
Because it's like,
And that's where we just need to fix that
Yeah.
language so that it's
if
at
there's,
the lower levels, that's the case. Up here at the high school, different rules apply.
it's like, if capable of driving in parent approval.
Yeah, well,
I get it.
all set, Tyler?
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else on JHC? All right, next one, JICDD, student discipline out of school actions. Questions, comments about this one? Go ahead.
I mean, don't we already have something with cyberbullying and internet threats? I mean, don't we already had another policy that doesn't.
Yeah, it actually says it would be addressed in accordance with the JICK.
And it's kind of funny because it's out of school actions, but talking about school property and stuff like that. So
Well,
I think that means if they come here on like a Saturday and destroy the playground.
or if I throw a rock at a bus down the street
Yeah.
that's driving by my house. Not that I would ever do that.
You mentioned private property of school staff or employees too. So if somebody decided to find a teacher's house that they were mad at, they could be disciplined by the school as well.
Right, so this basically pertains to, like we said, school property, staff, other students, incidents. Basically,
Knock a stop sign down and you decide to do a donut in the middle of the street. I'm not coming after you.
yeah, no, I mean, unless it was that stop sign.
Oh, yeah, that one I'm coming after you.
Right.
Yeah, but if you do something like
Yeah,
that,
I mean, it's only that pertain district related.
correct.
I had an issue with that at first, like, hey, you're gonna give me a hard time for something I did out here. There's already police for that. But if it's involving staff or other students, I could understand intervention.
So, Joe,
I'm good.
anybody else? All right, we'll have a second reading on the 15th if all goes to plan. Next up, new revised policy, second reading. Policy, and all these had no changes as a result of the first reading. Policy ADC, tobacco nicotine products ban. Get a motion, please?
I'll make a motion to accept policy DC tobacco nicotine products ban.
Second by Cindy. Any other discussion? All those in favor? Whoop,
I'm sorry, just real quick. I see I'm just making sure this says so this includes vaping. E-cigarette. Is that considered,
I have to pull it up.
is that enough to consider?
Yeah, it's all
Anything that
encompassing.
covers everything? Okay. Yeah, then that was it. Just wanted to confirm before we.
Yeah,
To get
even
your, to get your waxes and your liquids and your oils and all that.
the name is actually changed to prohibitions regarding use and possession of tobacco products, e-cigarettes, e-liquids in and on school facilities and grounds.
Way to stay with the times.
If that doesn't work, I can go back to policy.
I just wanted to make sure there wasn't some sort of a weird semantic caveat for vaping because it's not technically,
Yeah,
you know what I
it,
mean?
it calls it out in here.
All right, cool. Thanks, sir.
Anybody else? All right. And we had a motion and we had a second. Is that fair? Correct? Okay.
I have one question. So,
Oh, go ahead.
I mean, it seems like the punishment here is strictly to the discretion of building administration. There's no outlines. This is what happens if you get caught vaping in school.
I think that's another policy, because I think we do have something that's pretty much set.
I'll just assume that that's the case then, and we can
Move on.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, there's another policy, because I know, and again,
If not, then.
yeah, we've had some, I want to say some,
If you catch them.
sort of practices too that we're implementing. No, I mean, trying to think of the appropriate word, but yeah.
I understand.
How would one restore, like, how would that work?
Well,
I'm
and
vaping.
everything's progressive, so I'm gonna say that, here we go again. If it's a high school kid, you kind of know that that's not the right thing to do. So it's probably gonna be a little bit more of a harder hit. Whereas in middle school kid, we're still trying that restorative teaching. You know what, we're gonna do this number of days, but we're also gonna have you come in and work with our SAP counselors, you know, let's say they're not doing that at the high school. I know that at the high school, it's this number, but we're gonna give you this number if you come in and meet with the SAP counselor on these number of times.
But like, would vaping get you a Saturday detention? Or,
If you're vaping is probably, right now, again, I can't speak to it personally. Typically, it's 2 to 3 days and then a SAP counselor that you're gonna talk
days
out.
of suspension?
And most of this, I think, and again, vaping, I know the THC, that's a much bigger one.
Well, yeah, that's,
Yeah,
What about the controlled substance on
Yeah.
top?
so that might be 10 and then 5.
and then we would have programs in place for the kids.
What the SAP counselors are for.
Do we have all that in writing somewhere?
I think there's, yeah,
Okay.
if you go to the.
You look at
drug
the
use
policy and then
yeah.
also this high school student handbook, middle school handbook, see things outlined.
All right.
Anything else on this one? All right. So again, policy ADC. And it's actually GBED and JICG. All those alphabets. All right. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. Next up, BCB, Board Member Conflict of Interest. Get a motion for that one, please.
I'll make a motion to accept, BCB board member conflict of interest.
Second.
Second, go ahead.
So just for clarity, before, board member relative could not work for the district, but we made that, the staffing issues, obviously. And there's no direct hiring of the board. We made it so a board member's family member could apply to be employed by the district. The only person we're not allowing is anyone affiliated with the superintendent.
Your daughter really wants to
Correct.
work here too. Calculus teacher, social worker, she was gonna do it all.
Can she drive?
And give half her salary.
Can she drive?
Bus driver too?
Yeah, that too.
Does she know how to clean out a wood pellet?
All right,
That would be.
Any
the new
other
policy
discussion?
Right there.
there you go. All encompassing. BCB, all right, all those in favor? Aye. Motion passes unanimous. Next up, JICFA, hazing. Get a motion, please.
I'll make a motion to accept JICFA hazing.
Second.
Second by Cindy. Discussion? All those in favor? Aye. So did you, I didn't. Okay. Motion passes unanimously. Strategic plan update, Harry.
Yes, we're doing parent and community engagement. With the support of the superintendent, each school will collaborate with a new community partner in order to increase the positive involvement with our local community. Currently, LRES is working with the Southeast Land Trust We've scheduled field trips to some of our local SELT conservation sites, and SELT has developed a curriculum for all three of the grades, all three of the grades. I shouldn't say 4 grades. The middle school is working.
I'm assuming it is for kindergarten and up.
Oh, that's right. Okay, yep. All 3, 4, still doesn't read right. All 4 of the grades. All right. The middle school is working with Prospect Mountain Academy. MPA is a therapeutic agency that offers residential outpatient service. Sometimes their therapists come to school and work with the students at the middle school. So we're just increasing our SEL. We've had a couple outreaches at the high school, but we really haven't had much back. We've called somebody 4 times and just haven't gotten a phone call back. It's community something or another, community development partners or something like that. So we're trying to reach out again. Issue with the high school is that we're doing so much with Holly Londo, with already bringing all these other things in. It's hard to find somebody else to come in. So we're kind of struggling there. I'm not going to deny that. Probably going to resend that communication.
But I guess my question, does it have to be, for lack of a better way, job related? Can it be other types?
Can be, we're just trying to get,
Struggling?
yeah.
Okay.
Just, to make it meaningful too, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and I realize also, as an example, we have the Coalition for Youth.
Yep.
Partner already.
Yeah.
But we're trying to expand even.
Yep.
more, so.
Yep. I'll send the communication thing out again that I'm supposed to message again. Just we haven't done it yet to give them, school just kind of started. Again, we've done the template. I think that the way they report out now, it's pretty good. Calls will be completed on the next workshop on 11/7. Those will be done. Parent Square, I think last time I checked and Jen helped me with that. Any message that goes out, we're getting a good read, but since Brandy's left, we're still trying to struggle to figure out how we can see that snapshot of messages going out and how many people are reading them. So I got to sit down with Matt. We just have to figure that out. So I know it's going out. I know they're reading them. I just don't have a percentage on that because
And what about I know that goes out on,
Fridays. The
Yeah.
principal's one.
but it also goes out via email, I presume. For example, I know I get both. I get the Parent Square because I have the app, and then I also get it does it automatically go to the mail also, or the way I signed up for it and didn't know it, it also does that? Do you know?
I think it goes out by both, but I have to check that, John. And Joe mentioned,
Because the important thing is I might read something on one, and I know I don't need to read it on the other.
Yeah.
So it's important, I think, we look at both. That's why I was asking.
like that there's an issue that if we send an attachment out on Parent Square, they can't open it. So again, I got to check
I
with
think
Matt.
that's just Joe.
It could be.
We had that problem too.
I remember him mentioning something else and we fixed it. And I
No, I don't know.
That if it's something that needs to be fixed, it's not what I want to say user friendly.
Correct.
So we have to, if we're adding it, it's on my agenda to talk to the principals about, and then whoever the tech director right now, it's Maddie, but how can we make sure that those attachments are actually getting to the parent and so they can see them?
Right. That's the key, right?
Because I think 8th grade
Wait to send them.
with their Washington DC trip on Parent Square and had an attachment on it. I want to make sure the parents actually got that.
That'd be, yeah.
Yeah,
That'd be good.
I mean, nobody's complaining to me, but that doesn't mean they're not complaining to the middle school. I'm just,
Yep. No, I understand.
again, it could be Joe. He's not here. It could be his phone. It could be a setting he's got. So, I'm just going to check into that.
Tell him I threw him under the bus when he
Yeah,
got
that's all
back.
right. We're still working on Raymond School District collaboration with his partners will host family community events. It's on the agenda. We're going to start hammering on that stuff. The new principals are in now. So how are we going to, get the messages out? What family fun events? I know that the PTA had one just a little while ago. So we want to do that. Increase parent knowledge of the impacts of behaviors on school environment. Director of Health and Wellness. I know that Sam does a nice job getting that information out, community newsletters. So it's just one of those things that as we get into the year, it'll go out again. And is that meaningful and is it reaching enough people?
I threw you under the bus while you were gone, Joe.
Yeah, we were talking
Joe,
about that with Parent Square and could have been a Joe issue or it's
That it was operator error.
yeah.
I don't think implied is the right word.
I think I flat out stated it.
If you'll get your email on Parent Square, but if it's like an attachment, you can click on the email and it's into the Parent Square, then you gotta log on to Parent Square if your phone logged you off or if you go anywhere else, because I don't have it on every computer I have at home. So that makes it difficult to pull up emails if you're trying to look at an email
No,
on the phone.
I'll throw my wife under the bus too. She'll hit me when I get home. She had an issue too. No, she tried to open something up and it just spun.
Yeah.
And we ended up having to log in with my Gmail account as a school board member in order to open the attachment.
Oh, that's a violation of policy LMN.
Yeah,
I'm just-
That's been 19.
Well, I think my,
Oh,
part of
my
the issue
goodness, that
sometimes
was
is
funny.
if it's in a
Element.
Google, say a Google Doc.
Yeah.
And I open it up in my email, I can't do it.
Yeah, it could be a permissions thing.
And that's what happens.
I hate.
I know for me, because I don't have Gmail.
Yeah.
I open something up in my Yahoo and,
So we're gonna say AOL.
Oh, man.
but I use the dial-up. Is that the same?
Well,
Don't hate on AOL.
So I can't open that up because it's in Google.
Yep.
And it's like, what are we doing? So,
Joe mentioned this and I do too, is, you know, I know what we intended Parent Square to use it for, and it was
Yeah.
supposed to be just a texting thing. And now,
solve one issue, yeah.
now we've created others. So I think that, you know, when new tech director comes in, you know, we need to sit down and just figure out, you know, like you, not everybody has Google, not everybody has access
Yeah,
to
but-
Google.
But the other important part is, it's not exclusive, it's not a Parent Square issue. It's regardless of what you send out, for example, the Friday reminders.
Yeah.
If you send out something in Google Docs, not everybody has access to that.
Not everybody else, I'm assuming, not everybody has access to Word either. So it becomes a complicated thing of,
PDF is easier,
yeah, but
That's what I said, yeah.
right, Jen? Is it, I mean, I'm not making like.
No.
Yeah, okay.
the PDF, you can't type in it. You got to print it, download it. You know what I'm saying? So that makes it complicated. It's just, I know there's a plethora of,
Right, but the important, first step is you need to be able to open it.
Yeah.
Right? So, anyways.
we're going back to, here's the permission slips again.
Right.
Sorry.
Started all of this.
It could be as simple as creating a separate Google Drive that's open to all rather than restricted to SAU accounts. Right now, all of our drives are restricted to SAU email addresses. But you
No. For example, if you own a Gmail account that isn't associated with the district, you can open the things up.
I tried it with my personal Gmail.
Okay, I just
account.
telling you that,
Okay. So the only reason I mentioned is I have 4 Gmail accounts, unfortunately,
wow,
but, I
they're
tried it
on
with my,
sale.
they were all free. I had too many jobs. Only, yeah, see, only 4 because he's young. He knows. I have, it didn't work for me when I tried to open it with my personal Gmail
yep,
account,
okay.
but it only worked when I used my SAU account.
Yeah.
So I don't know if we have our drive. If not, we should at least look, Jen,
Well, yeah, it probably depends on the different folders. We can restrict it to just SAU. We can make it open to others, and it depends on how they're doing it.
yeah.
Those permissions.
And I have had a former tech director tell me that PDF is actually the very.
That's where to
best way
go.
send Anything, and they can be editable if we make it editable.
Yeah, you can make a PDF fillable.
Love it.
There you go.
Editable.
An iPhone
Ed-
PDF one.
Edible,
Edible.
edible.
Then you're having a
Just put it in ChatGPT.
Violate another policy there.
Delicious.
Fill it in.
Is that Jen?
No, that's a violation of policy.
Yeah, another policy violation.
Do we have?
All right.
That's 25.
bad question right now. Square exactly. I don't know. I'm gonna admit I don't know.
Square
Is it an
parents,
app?
only square parents use
Is
it.
it an app that
Yeah,
I?
it's an app on your phone
Okay.
that the teachers basically, they can email parents through the app. They can do a whole bunch of things, but like, I'll just say it. I got an email for the 8th grade field trip that's coming up. It came through Parent Square. It was an email that went through Parent Square. So when I went to open up the email and click on it takes me to Parent Square, but you can't click on the link unless you're actually in the Parent Square. So you still get the emails, even though you're not, logged in the Parent Square, but then you have to do a whole bunch of other stuff. Where just a regular email, you can just click on Parent Square. But it's basically a communication system where
Yeah.
they can email, they can text, they can do a whole bunch of different things.
Yeah.
It just goes to Parent Square.
And as Terry mentioned, this originally came about because we wanted to make sure that coaches or extracurricular activities were communicating to the whole group and we didn't want it via text. So the solution was Parent Square. So for example, if you have a high school student athlete, the students get the same messages that the parents get, that, the meet or the game is canceled or whatever, and whatever else you need to know about things going on. So that's where,
I remember all that.
yep.
It turned into the 3-headed monster all of a sudden, we just do everything with it now.
Yep.
So.
I don't even have, but now I gotta get it because guess what's going out that way now? Snow message.
Oh,
Yeah, so now I'm like,
So I'm not the one.
well,
who
we're not
doesn't have
getting
it,
any
thank
snow this
Yeah.
year,
you.
so.
I got kids.
Moving up.
yeah, I was like, so
It snowed.
at 10 o'clock tomorrow to figure out how to do the
No,
messages.
we saw some snow in Pelham.
It was just a flurry.
Yeah, that's fine, but it was snow
It
nonetheless.
wasn't
All right.
real, it was fake.
Strategic plan update. Any other?
All I got.
I just want to make sure the board is all set. All right. Thanks, Terry.
Welcome.
All right. We've scheduled time for budget follow-up. I know Terry and Marjorie put some time together to answer questions that we had from the last time we met and to probably follow up on some, basically Tuesday and Wednesday of whenever we last met.
Yes.
So I'm a little insulted because Tony gave his away.
Well, I want them to be able to keep track.
I have an extra.
So would you like me to go through the questions? You've gotten the questions to read. What would you like to do, John?
If you could go through.
All right, I'm
Better, and
I'll try to skip the ones I already answered, and if I didn't,
but also you don't have to, just hit the highlights.
okay.
And here's the list of whatever, if that works for everybody.
It's way ahead of us. All right.
Yeah, I'm sure he's got it on his computer already. Yeah.
Done.
He opened it with his Gmail.
I'm gonna, it's in the Friday memo. We'll do that with the Friday memo. Facilities, behavior, kind coach. Arby's moving on changing that. I believe we're gonna make that.
Where are you
I'm on LRES behavior coach.
on page? Okay, 2. Okay.
What did you say we were gonna, that was,
I'm going to just change the name
Of the account line.
of the account name. Yep. I've already done that on all of your worksheets that you have attached.
curriculum. We went through that. Gordon has already answered that question for us. It can be part of the, default budget. Mentor stipends.
Oh, that's good. Sorry.
You and I talked about it. I still think it's a good number to start with.
7,000?
7,000. I know that the program's not robust enough. I think that that could be something that the principals and I work on over the summer.
And that's the big idea, right? I mean, for me, it's ballpark 8 months away, really 9, 10 months away.
Yeah.
And making it more meaningful than it is now. But I also want to make sure that we're compensating people appropriately for what they're doing. And the chances of it only being, because right now it's $1,000 per, right?
Yeah.
Do we really think we're going to have only 7 new teachers next year that need
Yeah.
assistance? Because not all teachers are, if I come in brand new, I come in at all, I need help anyways, but
Yes. And there's their talk to degrees of help too. A
Yep.
veteran teacher's not gonna need as much. It's just the nuts and bolts of the school.
Correct.
Whereas a newbie is gonna need a lot more.
so I guess the question is your comfort level of 7,000?
What are you thinking too?
I'll be honest, I was at 10, but. Cause that's, if it's $1,000.
I mean, I'm fine with that too. I think that's probably a good starting point to see where we're at moving forward. Because we know we didn't have enough this year. So I think that's,
And, and I assume when we visit this over the 8 to 10 months, we're gonna be potentially changing how much that is depending on who's doing what, right?
yep, that's the goal too. Yep.
It might be,
More of a tiered system.
right, it might be a brand new teacher we might want to compensate them more than if you're just helping a 30-year veteran.
Yep, and the question is too, is how many times they meet, what are they meeting for?
Right.
Are we really sticking to that? I think that there's more at the beginning of the year than the end of the year. Just, we need to sit down and
Right.
come up with a really structured program. And, we don't have one right now that we follow.
So right now you're okay with 7, but we can have a conversation next time. My intent is right now is just to go over the questions tonight, and then if we have any other questions, and then we'll need to schedule another time, after at the end of the
Meeting with the principals next. week.
finalize.
Yeah, so it's a big, I can add that to the agenda too.
All right.
Esther, we went over, we cut the $500 from printing. Secretary was addressed, communications lines was addressed, property and liability. We're gonna take a look at that. Wage pool, we went over that. Follow-up. Okay, so we're at, the middle school.
So I
Number
just want
one.
to stop you right there. So the packets that I handed out tonight,
Which page you on now?
I'm on,
oh, this one
they're
doesn't.
not
have
numbered.
numbers.
I am down to the middle school.
Okay.
Marjorie to update retiring guidance counselor.
Thank you.
Okay, so I wanted to update you guys on everything that I handed out. You can organize it in your binders however that you want to. So this first section is just the additional information. So I've provided with you the account numbers that I've changed since our meetings last week and why we made those changes. So the first one was the decrease of the high school maintenance replacement furniture and fixtures and FAU printing. Then the next one, as we're getting into the middle school right now, was the decrease of the guidance salary for the person that's retiring. And then the two sections below that are just moving money. It was asked that I create a middle school music line, so I moved the music people out of the teacher line into the music lines. And then after talking with Pete last week, so 20% of the world language person should have been moved to the FACS line, so I did that as well. So that is the updated, and then behind that you have your questions that are answered that we're going over right now. And then the second section that I gave you, that stuff would go replace the information that's in your first tab. And that is the projected budget by summary department by what has changed with the information that I provided with you of what we changed. And then the summary of expenses by object code, and then the summary of expenses by function code.
Before you go on, Marjorie. When we talked about budget committee, we talked about only doing object code for the budget committee. Does the board need to see the budget by function code? I'm asking the board. Because when we always talk about it, historically and recent, is we only say object code and we don't, because it's just more printing and more work for you, I presume.
It's a lot of work.
The object codes are the 500 numbers.
Yes, and the function code is listed next to them. It's just a matter of the object code is done by object and then the function is the function code. And it's a lot of work. And I don't know that it's adding value for us as a board. That's what I'm asking. So that's one less thing for us to receive and Marjorie have to do.
You're gonna get giddy here in about 2 seconds.
I am, because that's just the way it's always been.
Everybody okay with that?
I'm good with that.
Okay. Thank
So
you.
sorry, just to, 123100035 is the function code.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't think we need them.
Well, it would still be there.
Yeah.
But what I'm talking about is
Sort it out and.
it's sorted two different ways. We get it by the function code and the object. But when we talk about things, we always talk it by the object code. And so
No, that
I'll
makes
leave it
sense.
there.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Thank you very much. That's going to be a lot. Then your last tab, this section can be filed by your individual tabs, which will be just replaced behind it. So everything has been updated.
Those are full reprints, right? For that section?
yes,
The new sections are the full section. It's not just.
of the object code
Okay.
ones, yeah.
Okay.
But the backup material there, you keep the one, you didn't put, for example, class sizes again. For example.
No.
So you want to keep those,
And I didn't,
Steve.
and not all of them were updated. I only gave you the updated ones that were affected on this sheet. So you only have high school,
Right.
middle school, district-wide, facilities.
Yeah, okay. I kept the original page.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
So I personally, because of what I do and how I have to report to you, I like to keep everything in my binder. So I cross the old one out and I put that one on top. So when we go back and talk to it, I have something to reference.
Yep.
Okay, so the middle school, so we did the guidance counselor. And I changed that, so the total decrease for that was $27,585. It was asked, to look into what co-curriculars we have not run for the past few years for the middle school. So that is what has not been used.
Can I get clarification? There's a few down here. Well, there's two specifically. Intramural volleyball, intramural soccer. Now we have only club. I don't understand what's the difference? I know what the difference is supposed to be, But from a financial perspective, does the club mean it's free? Or does it mean
But I take it.
if we can get clarification?
Well, we do pay for clubs.
Oh, well, then I'm gonna.
So,
That's what I mean. That's what I,
right, so, yep.
so
But I
that's
think-
what I was looking for is that, for example, the chess club. If we don't have chess club, then why are we budgeting for it?
Right.
In this, you know, I know historically we've always done that. If it's been in existence, we budget for it. And that's, maybe we shouldn't be doing that, but, so that's a conversation we'll have. All right.
I think just because they're not teams anymore, but now they're just clubs. And I don't know if it has to
Well-
do with moving the grades. I'm not sure.
Yeah, because I'll be clear, because we have volleyball now at the middle school, right? We have soccer at the middle school. It's the intramural, but now they're saying it's only club. So if we get clarification what they mean by that. And then the last three are, they haven't been done and now they're back by popular demand. Thank you.
You're welcome. The substitute salary at the
Actually,
Go ahead.
B game club. What is that?
We had a JV basketball,
Okay.
So you have.
A and B.
If
It's about the same B game I'm thinking of.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I guess that's a good question because who's managing it if they don't?
Probably the athletic director's there all the time.
Or do they not have enough players to play a B team?
That's what I'm saying. There's nobody at the game, the management, so,
Right.
but there's nobody at the, look, I mean, game management above.
Yeah.
That would, somebody is not, that's, yeah,
For example, they have basketball A and B for boys and girls. But they would have listed, for example, B not, the basketball team didn't run, but they did. So it's just a matter of that. Okay. So for example, for me, I would say that still needs to be there. They should have somebody there. It just hasn't been a position they've been able to fill, I presume. Okay. Go ahead.
So just for clarity, we're not cutting these co-curriculars. They just haven't run.
Well, I'll be proposing when we talk about cutting some of them, yeah. But that's just me.
So I had a couple of look, the Strategic Card Club. Is that like Pokemon?
I don't know.
I would assume it's something like that.
Card.
I'm not gonna say it.
In the Service Learning Volunteer.
Texas Hold'em.
Okay, that was a new one for me when that came across today. I had a tough time typing that one because I didn't know what it was.
Service learning volunteer. Would that be like helping in the little kids' classes?
We don't know.
I don't know.
I don't.
So we
Great mystery.
find that out.
Okay.
We could look at those.
Right.
Middle school substitute salary, it was looked into, it was asked to look into decreasing the sign. I did look into that, when I was working on this last week, and last week was, well, we've already spent $28,000 out of that line.
This year.
So, yeah, already, and I mean, that's only going through October 17th. So I'm a little concerned about that. It was also asked of me, by Tom, why his substitute line is so much higher than the elementary school and high school. And I had this conversation with Terry, and I think the middle school has an easier time finding substitutes.
We have a conversation with, who would, because we don't have the institutional knowledge now that we did, because all the principals are new, right?
Right.
Would Karen have a flavor for that as to, is that accurate assumption? Bridget would probably be the person to talk to, right, for the middle school, that would, and here at the high school, Joanne has some knowledge, more knowledge than, Pete, just because she was hired last year. Go ahead, Joe.
I think one of the biggest things is that a lot of the parents, when they started substituting, they'd start substituting like third grade. So now we only have them for third grade, and now they're off to the middle school and fourth grade, and
Yeah.
they keep substituting. So I think we lose that extra year that we would have had them in the middle school, the elementary school before.
And I was taking that into account too, because we did move the fourth grade up.
Yeah.
So now with the middle school has 5 grades now, right? So I was trying to
Expectation
look
is
at it
that-
overall.
It would be higher, but would it be twice as high?
Right.
Because that's what it is. Okay.
Next page on page 4, middle school office printing. It was asked if the 4th and 5th grade are actually using the agendas. The teachers report that students use them daily and that almost every student keeps their agenda book to the end of the year. Okay. Middle school general ed supplies. What is the cost per pupil? $50.03. Middle school assembly, school board may discuss increasing this line from 0. I just put that as a note for us to keep there. Tom said he is open to adding money back, maybe 3,000 to 4,000, but I do know that we've had discussions about.
I just talked to him again today and he gets it. He's fine. He can make it happen with none because as I said, and we talked about, if there is somebody they want to bring in, he has a fund. And then, parent core, they'll split the difference and then bring that individual in.
Middle school media periodicals, are these still being used? Are they still needed, or can we get something for free? He said that we can cut $300 for art periodicals, but rather than cut additional periodicals, we would prefer to cut $1,960 for new chairs for the computer class. If we reduce the UA programs, we will have extra chairs to reallocate to the computer room.
So the 1960s contingent on UAs being less than they are now. Is that fair to say?
Which UAs are we talking about reducing? I don't remember.
It was just FCS and the 2 labs,
The FCS was the only one that was discussed.
UA wide. Yeah, because the labs weren't UAs, they're for a core class.
School board discussed adding back in a world language teacher. I left that there for discussion. There was a request for 3 to 4 years to see test scores prior to lab implementation and into see test scores 3 to 4 years after. So I attached that information to there.
It's not working.
Yeah, I tried that and it didn't
I'm
work.
gonna let Terry speak to that one.
You're not going through Parent Square.
More about that than I do. I don't know if you
I just
can.
got an updated one from Tom. He met with the teachers. So, the lab classes, 2019, 2020 were the first year that was COVID. So there was no testing that year. 2020,
What was the first year?
there's, according to them is 2019, 2020.
Thank you.
And then 2021 was hybrid, 23, 22, 22, 23, 23, 24. So if you do take a look at the cohort data from grade 3, 20 to 20, 21 to 21, 22. And then well, let me go do mine because I have mine for 3 years. This one isn't as updated. Hold on here. Let me click the button too.
But to me, we should be looking at strictly what did 7th and 8th grade do prior to having labs?
Yep.
And then what did they do after they got labs, right?
Is that page 2, John?
What do the numbers reflect here?
We have that, don't we? Because they gave us all.
No, that's what I'm saying is that, for example, I'm not concerned what 3rd grade did. Or
Yeah,
4th
my
grade.
bad. I was just,
It's just because to me, we should be looking at what did 7th and 8th grade do years before we got the lab? So 18, 19, 17, 18, 16, 17, and 15, 16. What did they do? And then compare it to, we got lab teachers. What did those?
Yep.
Not the same cohort,
so
obviously.
3rd graders, they were at 51.
No. We don't want to, me, I don't. think that's-
You want to look at the cohort data.
No, I don't.
Oh, I thought
What
that,
I'm saying is I would look at only 7th and 8th grade data. What did they do before we got lab teachers? What were what was their numbers? Yeah, because again, we're looking at, we added those teachers. What did the students' performance for 7th and 8th grade do after we've had those additional time with the students with reading and math?
So let me ask this question before we start reading these numbers. I'm looking at, just for instance, 2020 to 2021, it's in gray. For Raymond, for grade 6, it says 50. Is that the average score in the class? What does 50 reflect?
what year?
It's 2020 to 21. It's the second to last labeled column.
That would be the percentage of students that scored a 3 or a 4 on the SAS test.
Proficient,
They were proficient.
proficient
So,
or better.
so half the kids in this class scored,
Here were proficient.
were proficient.
or better.
And then to your point before, if we go down and to the right, that's the same group of kids, but now they're in 7th grade. for 21, 22, they scored 61% of them are proficient. Right, same kids, but now they're in seventh grade and it's the next year.
In the following year, they were 56, they went down.
Yeah, it's like the seventh grade, they went from 61 to 46.
But again,
Right.
the way I look at, usually I like cohort. But because this is, we're only looking at what happened in seventh and eighth grade because of lab teachers, right? And that's the discussion is do we want to keep the lab teachers? What does the data show for those years?
John?
Go ahead.
Do we have to look at maybe, and just looking at the complete data, what would, because seventh grade always seems to be higher. And then when they get to eighth grade, there's a fall off. And
Historical, if you look at the state's data,
Does the same thing.
they're done
But why?
because they're tapped out. They don't want to take a test.
They don't want to do eighth. grade
Statewide, that, look at, I mean, it's 30% now in math, in eighth grade, statewide. Statewide,
I mean, if you look at all the
35%
data,
state data.
if you look at, oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead. What's,
So if you go all the way to the left, Joe, it's consistent.
No, that's what I'm saying though. I mean,
why do 11th graders, typically don't want to take the SAS test?
What's up?
Instead to take it, state,
Then
they stopped giving it because, yeah, the PSAT. It's a net, yeah. I am going to say this, I don't, and this is my own personal belief, I don't think how the model is used for the lab teachers is appropriate. I don't think 6 weeks of reading and then 6 week of math and 6 weeks of reading, 6 weeks of math. And I think, it's the appropriate way. I think it needs to be a more concerted effort if they were going to stay as to who goes into the lab and why. This kid, you got to take a look at the group. These are the number of kids who are not proficient in reading. In my mind, that's the number one task. They got to read to be successful. Typically, it's unfortunate that number is too large, but you have to be concise and precise for what's going to happen in those 6 weeks and where they're going and what they're going to do. And then you take the other group and put them into math and you keep going them until they get to a certain level and then you switch or move kids out. It's what RTI is. So I think that's, my mind, it needs to be a more concerted effort of who's in and why they're in and what they're getting.
Now, the other part of we're looking at next year as part of the strategic plan to change how we move
Yep.
kids around in the middle school. For example, if I'm a seventh grader next year and I'm at a third grade level in math, I am not going to be put in with kids under the thinking anyways, with the rest of the four of these individuals that are all at seventh or above. Because if I go in, the thinking is I'm lost walking in the door, it's everything above me, then it's not productive. Where you get a few more people that are in my range, it's going to be a little more productive for me and the teacher because
They can close the gap.
right. So does that impact not having lab teachers for that?
That's hard for me to answer, John, because
Oh,
I couldn't answer that because I wouldn't, I'd have to take a look at the schedule. I'd have to take a look at who it is, how many kids we have. I can't sit there and answer that and just check a box. I can't. It's not fair. Yeah.
Have to ask.
Yeah, I know you do. I just,
So I have two questions.
Go ahead.
The numbers we're looking at, the percentage of students who are proficient, is that across the whole grade?
Yeah.
Yep.
And is every kid in the labs in the grade?
no.
So I think,
Wait a minute.
so
Yeah, that's another one.
well, the reason for the question is not every kid is in the labs in the grade, then I don't think these stats really reflect the true
Effectiveness.
effectiveness of the
I
lab.
believe they are.
One interventionist provides services for about 20%, 25% of the grade level. So one interventionist, that's the lab teacher. And if I'm wrong, this is the data I'm reading from them. They just provided me today. They work with 25% of the kids.
Joe,
I could
correct
be
me if I'm
wrong.
wrong. You have an eighth grader, you had an eighth grader. When our kids were there, our sophomores, they went to scheduled during their day, they went to lab. I think every other day or every day.
yeah, they all go to lab as far as I know.
In math, the same group goes to each of the classes.
Okay, you know,
Now, whether, I don't know what they're doing this year in eighth grade, because I don't have a kid there.
Interventionist though.
yep, so that's not the
So
lab.
that's
teacher.
not a lab teacher.
Yeah, the labs, I believe all the kids go through them.
So provide some
On that
sixth level classes. They teach underlying topics needed to be successful. Uses iReady and iReady data to provide targeted support. The lab teacher can target standards that the classroom teacher does not have time to cover during the year. Holocaust and genocide studies, law mandates students learn about Holocaust and genocide no later than eighth grade in the state of New Hampshire. The eighth grade curriculum does not cover the Holocaust. Historically, ELA teacher has read the Diary of Anne Frank, while Europe is covered in world geography in seventh. Without the lab classes covering the Diary of Anne Frank, the district is not meeting the requirements of the new law.
Say that last part again.
Without the lab classes covering the Diary of Anne Frank, the district would not be meeting the requirements of the new law. Another teacher can provide alternate ways to explain concepts with different examples. It gives students more opportunities to work in groups and learn from each other. Data has shown that students learn a great deal and retain more when investigating and working in groups and working with others in real life skill. So that's some of the rationale.
But wait a minute, Steve, you had a question and it started this conversation and you said you had another one. Did you?
Yeah, well,
And then
the
I'll go to
second
Joe.
question was if it's not all the kids going, I guess it depended on the answer to, are all the kids going to lab? Because if all the kids aren't getting the lab, then this isn't really the right data because,
They are going to lab.
okay,
I misspoke. I thought.
okay, no, that's what I was trying to clarify. Thank you.
You all set?
Yeah.
Go ahead, Joe.
I know one of the things, I don't know why it is this year, they used to have different labs of individual students who were, and where they were, what level they were at. I don't know if they're doing that quite as much as they used to. I know they did it with my son. It doesn't seem like they're doing it with my daughter. I think they're all going into the one math lab now. But I could be wrong about that.
For you and still in touch, Joe.
Yeah, go ahead. You can go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, when I start looking at the data that we have, you know, if you look at seventh grade, I'm looking at seventh grade math. You know, their low was 47 before the lab, and then the high was 61. But the other thing is all this data is in COVID when we had the lab and then the struggles that we have afterwards. So I don't even know if the data is lending us anything in that sense. I didn't think about it when I asked about it, but when I'm looking at it, I'm going, you know, we're down across the board pretty much academically and behavioral, but we're not measuring behavior here. But so I don't know how much this is really adding to our conversation, but that's where I'm thinking is. So
So,
go ahead, Joe.
go ahead.
And then Steve.
So this is one of the biggest things why I brought up world language. My daughter accidentally brought it up today. We didn't even know about it. You know, right now they have the UAs and with the math labs and stuff like that, if things change and they went back to it, if you didn't need a math lab, you can take, you know, students right now in a higher echelon could take world language teachers. Where right now they're getting put into, I think, music right now for eighth grade or which you don't need to have music at eighth grade. It's not a requirement by law, if I'm correct.
I think you're right.
So I thought it was up to sixth grade.
Anyways,
So, you know, her thing was that I get, you know, if I was able to take a world language, I could get something more use out of it. She also brought up FCS. She really liked the class because that's something people can use right now, which you're right. You can use that right now, right now. So, I mean, I think and I know, yes, it is an expense. I think and the only reason why we really cut it is because we couldn't get the person. I think if we got the person, we wouldn't cut the person. And I think we can get the person. I think it just makes it for a much better middle school, especially now that we have 5 grades in middle school. And yes, it won't be that forever, but again, world language teacher will go along with the complement well with what we have now.
so the data that we have in front of us, we have it for the lab teachers. Is everybody all set with that lab? Everybody understand what we've got in front of us? For me, I don't think it's gonna add value, so anyway, all right, next up,
I had actually,
go ahead. The data,
not about the data itself, but about what Terry read. So
okay,
one of the proposals is we cut the math and reading labs.
Yep.
One of the lines I heard you read, and the one I asked you to say a second time was, right now, we're fulfilling a legal obligation through the reading lab of reading the Diary of Anne Frank. What happens to that requirement if we cut the reading lab? And that's a legal requirement that we have to teach about. Well, that's what I heard.
We would.
I would say that,
Someone else would have to
Look at
take
the
it out.
curriculum and
Right.
make some adjustments.
Right.
so that, just like any other thing that we do, what did we do before the lab teachers? Were we missing it then?
Well, it wasn't a requirement then, but now it is.
But,
But other schools in the state have to meet the requirement, so they had to figure it out.
I know other school districts that they don't have math and reading labs and they have to read the diet. It's just part of their.
Well, they don't have to read that one, but they just gotta make sure they're doing what's the most popular
Yeah.
to read
That
about.
was just the example. That's why
Yeah.
I jumped with.
It's the most popular.
Yes.
all right. Next one, Marjorie, or is it Terry?
She's got it now.
Yeah. Last one under the middle school, separate the middle school music line, that has been done.
Thank you.
Then we're going into the high school. Marjorie, Pete and I looked, into the FACS and the health salary lines. 20% of the, world language teacher is being spent on the FACS. So I moved 20% of that person's salary and benefits into that line.
And to be clear, just for people, there's two world language teachers that that 20% is only one of the teachers.
Correct.
Did we decide FACS and FCS are the same?
Yes.
Yeah, but
Yeah, I just want to make sure.
80% of that is French and 20% of that is FCS.
Okay.
Oh, I just want to be clear on
So
that.
the 80% is the language.
Marjorie? Yeah, okay.
For that person, yes.
My French.
C'est vrai,
Up when we were going over the positions.
Yep.
Right?
Yes.
So, right, so that, the positions I gave you were in question, so now it's 1.8 as a world language and
0.2.
0.7 in the FACS / helpline.
You getting on this, Tyler?
Wait, First meeting, I said.
Sixth period stipend, how often used and by whom? The rate is $17.42 per semester.
I guess for me,
Yep.
because I had asked a question, we think we've got the correct number in there, budgeted. That's basically what I'm looking for.
I'm
scared now.
I was told that right now we're currently fulfilling these, with case managers.
This year, I don't think we've had to utilize it. This year.
Yeah, I know,
Previous.
because of all the
Staffing.
situations, the history we have, but okay, thank you.
Page 5, what co-curriculars have not run in the past? Below is a list of co-curriculars that haven't been utilized the last few years. However, they are budgeted for yearly just in case there is enough interest to run those programs.
I do have a question about one specific one. We have baseball at varsity and there's an assistant position. I'm assuming we just didn't have an assistant paid position that year because baseball is not exactly one of those sports where one coach is doing it all because first base, third base, usually. So that's why I'm asking, maybe they had a student doing, an athlete doing it, but, all right, thank you. I think
I answered your question.
I don't think I just espoused some information, but
And
how
this isn't
productive.
the full list. This is just the list that didn't happen.
That hasn't
Correct.
run in.
We've got a different list of all the ones that are in the budget.
I'm just gonna say that if there's one out of there that I would fight to keep because I want to get it back, it'd be drama.
Oh, I thought
Musical
you
or
were gonna
something.
go with one to cut.
We haven't cut it yet.
Because
Uh,
I've been-
I see the handwriting on the wall, so,
You can read well.
Erasing all that.
but I would, I'm just,
No, I hear you.
Yeah.
We'll have that conversation tonight. You got something, Joe?
Yeah, I was gonna say, I mean, My handwriting might be looking a little bit different.
All right, I'm just,
Yeah, no, that's but he knows that what I'm gonna propose, so.
I mean, I look at the J.
1 year and I got it down.
Proposed is different than
Yeah.
it actually happening.
I mean, I look at the JV stuff and say, you know, we still have possibilities of having more students here. Do I want to get rid of something?
In the future, but not in a year.
Well,
I think there's a creative way of doing that too, and you could say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 are cut. We're gonna keep 2 just in case. I know that we're just
Well,
hypotheticaling again.
just as an example, the boys varsity soccer team had 13 student athletes this year. They field 11. It wasn't a numbers crunch.
No,
They had a number crunch in the wrong way.
oh, I completely understand that.
Oh.
but It's not like we're not gonna give back the $7,000 that's here if we don't pay, if we don't use it either.
Go ahead,
So-
Steve, sorry.
Here's my question about the downstream impact. If we cut these from next year's proposed budget, what happens in 2 years?
Just like the world language teacher, you cut it now, you gotta ask for it again later.
So if we cut it, it goes out of our default and now it becomes a special add back later.
But how do you justify to the voters that we've got a position that we know we're not gonna fill, but yet we're gonna put it in the budget because we don't wanna lose it years down the road?
Well, because we might have kids
We
next
might,
year who
yep.
want to play
We might.
and then
Anyways,
the question becomes then, I hear what you're saying, but how then do we say to them, oh, we had it in the budget, we gave you back the money, can you give it back now? And I think historically, it's happened that there's a lot of resistance to increasing a budget rather than maintaining a default.
for as long as I've been on the board, in the 2D, with the break in between, we've been able to reduce teacher X from grade, say, 2. And the following year or 2 years down the road, we said, the numbers are up, we need to add it. We didn't have people saying no. We had some people saying no, but unfortunately, sometimes people just say no to the sake of saying no. But we didn't lose positions as a result of doing that. We've always been able to add in teachers that we've been able to justify.
I'm gonna say this too. With the current population that we have, the chances are that most of these programs will not be filled. However, if we were to all of a sudden get these stud baseball or softball players walking in the door and we wanted to field a JV team, I have the utmost confidence that we could find $2,000 somewhere within the budget to make that happen. And then to say, next year, we put it back in. I'm just, I think there's a realistic thing that we would be able to find the $2,000 to have one. I don't foresee us having 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 9 of them filling, but 2, okay. We could come up with $4,000 somewhere. That's just my own thought process.
Next up,
Halfway down that page, number 4, line number 500, 641, all the periodicals.
can I add at this point? I don't need everything, all that information. I think we've all been able to read it.
Thank you. I was gonna
I
ask,
think they've
really need to read 2.5 pages.
for me anyways, because I asked the question, I think they've justified what they need.
Okay.
I'm fine unless somebody else wants to.
You just went through like,
Need the detail on this one.
that's like 4 pages of time. We just got back 5 minutes.
Well, I think, yeah, he probably asked the teachers and
He felt bad. He said he was a little nervous on the last one. He's like, I'm gonna make sure I nail this one. So he did.
I
Go ahead, Cindy.
mean, and the thing is, like, sometimes people do buy things that they think, oh, we bought it last year, so we're gonna buy it again.
exactly, and
And for them to review it,
it's a healthy,
important.
yep,
yeah.
I agree.
So on page 8, number 5, high school credit recovery, how many students use Edmentum and how would it compare to the summer program in the past? So 4 teachers instructed students in the 4 core subject matter areas. 38 signed up and 1 failed to report. How many credits were recovered? The 38 students signed up for a total of 105 credits to be recovered. Of the possible 105 credits available for recovery, 70. Was there a cost to students? If so, how much? Pre-COVID, $150. Course, $50 for students who qualified for a reduced rate, 0 for students who qualified. COVID year up to and included 2022 summer, no charge. And current cost, $50 per course, $35 for students who qualified for a reduced rate.
Question I have is we've got the credit recovery that, to me, that's the ideal way to go, right? I mean, in the sense you're doing it during the year and you know, for lack of a better word, live. Is summer school productive then?
I would say was this year through using that program.
Yeah, but we didn't have I'm not gonna be able to pronounce the program, so I won't even try. The recovery program, I can say that. We didn't have that for the last
Half of the year.
year
Yep.
ballpark.
Yep.
So we had a lot of students that weren't able to use it, and I know the license probably wasn't as,
Robust.
I don't know if it was a problem, but probably didn't have enough at the time. But my question is, do we need summer still?
Again,
If we use the credit recovery
Yeah.
system properly?
I couldn't answer that because
We haven't done it.
we haven't done it.
All right.
I-
All set.
And I
would-
think that's why we reduced the summer.
Oh, I hear you, but I'm just curious as to, with the success rate we had with the credit recovery, that's why I was asking is, and I also,
I think there will always be a need. But I think one teacher we can do it with one instead of the
well,
number.
the problem is, okay, if you have an English teacher, are you gonna be able to do the math or the vice versa, right? And that's one of my concerns.
I think that,
I'm not gonna try to solve it tonight.
yeah, okay.
Moving on, moving on. John.
Barry, lock it up.
Joe has a question, so,
And Steve.
oh, okay. Go ahead, Joe. I saw Joe first, but
I know we did charge for summer school, and then we didn't charge for summer school. Is there a charge for summer school now?
yeah, it says it was 50, but I thought we went back to the pre-COVID numbers, but
We went to the by course because there were so many kids, we just.
Oh, I thought that was for this course. That's why when I was looking at it, I thought it was for the course. So is there any charge for the course then?
So this says, the way I'm reading this is.
Summer school.
$50 per course, $35 for students who qualified for a reduced rate and $0 for students who qualify.
and that is for summer school, not the credit recovery, because the
Correct.
credit recovery, we said, is nothing.
Yes,
Is that what you're?
That's why I was, yeah.
yeah, they're doing it during the school year.
Well, that's why.
Yeah.
And the district's paying for the program. I don't know if it's-
It was like $6,000 or something. Okay, Steve.
So, and maybe I mushed all this together. Edmentum is the credit recovery program.
Yeah.
And that's not what we used during the summer.
We did.
Yes.
Okay.
Wait a minute.
Did we use, yes.
We had,
We
we had teachers here teaching.
So two things. So we signed up for the Edmentum, I believe it was the end of last fiscal year. It didn't happen, I want to say, until April or May.
Right.
So we were trying to get the students to get the credit recovery before the end of the year. And then we offered summer school at the same time because we couldn't reach out to.
And did we use Edmentum during the summer school?
That I don't know.
I think it was a tool, but I don't think it was the only tool because there were teachers here.
Okay.
I know that one specifically, said that, he or she had a number of students.
So the numbers for credit recovery is for the Edmentum program or for the summer school program?
I thought it was.
5C.
It must be summer school.
Credits were recovered. Of the 105 possible credits, 70 were recovered. Is that part of the Edmentum or is that the summer school?
This is all summer school, the
Okay.
38 that signed up. And we were given the success rate of, the credit recovery. I'm not gonna,
I love it. No, I'm sorry.
what is fine.
No, we all have our things. There's.
I have many things. Don't worry about it. I have a cabinet full back there. But we were given that number, and if you give me enough time, I can probably
No,
find it.
I just wanted to make sure, because the way it read, when I read through it, I was like, wait, that seems like it's the same. And then you started splitting it out. So I wanted to make sure I was. following.
I understood that the Edmentum was during the school year, and then if they didn't get it done, they had to do summer school, but they could say they came for a couple days and got their stuff done, they were done.
Mhm, exactly. Because if you missed one competency, then you just had to complete that and show you were proficient in that competency.
Right.
Where if I show up and I need 3 competencies, then it's going to take me, in theory, a little longer. The numbers we were given is we had 26 students do the credit recovery program, and they received 36 credits as a result.
School year.
That was the one in the last third of the year. Yep. Joanne presented some information about that one night with us.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
All those did all 26 of those kids completed to, that they didn't have to go to summer school?
I couldn't answer that.
Yeah, that's a good question.
Well, look at it this way, they got credit that even if they had others that they had to do, they didn't have to do it during the
As
summer.
much.
Yeah.
But again, the idea is hopefully we're gonna be at the quarter mark here at the high school Friday. Hopefully we've got, if kids need it, they're in it now, right? Isn't that what should be happening?
The goal, yes, they're in ramming all.
As if-
Yep.
All right. Next up, I think.
High school photography repairs, the EOS 7 Rebel are the cameras that need to be repaired. They're 7 years old. We had 3 Canon T7 EOS cameras repaired with that this year. There was only one shop to bring up to. I called and they got a quote, $200 per camera. Given their age and the fact that this was first year we had to send cameras out, it was decided that we needed a budget for repairs moving forward so that we were not finding ourselves short of cameras.
Okay, so I have some questions about that.
Well, I thought they went on to talk
Yep,
about,
we want to talk about the new equipment.
you wanna, is this their
Well, I read that.
repairs
and it's-
versus new, right? That's what your concern
Well,
was.
They essentially said that these are the cameras they have.
And that's what we're gonna do.
Which, that's fine. I was just trying to get them more
Well, I understand
mean-
where you're coming from.
someone who owns a T5. I mean, the only difference between that and a T7 is one's 24 megapixels, the other one's 17.8. But everything else is pretty much the same, so I don't care.
You're okay?
It is what it is. I'm not gonna argue with them. They want 5 cameras instead of 16, that's fine with me. So we have a line here for repair, replace, and new. So is replace and new or repair, replace, like what's the difference?
Well, with any line item, new means, if, say, for example, they have 20
So we're buying
cameras.
new cameras, right?
Well, no, there's a difference, because if there's 20 cameras
Mhm.
and they want 5 additional cameras to get 25, new is 5.
Okay.
And if they need to replace any of the 20 and they're replacing 5 of them, they'll purchase 5 under the replacement line. And that's like that with any other new versus replacement in our budget. Do I got that right?
So the amount they have set for replace, we'll get them. Like
I don't know how many.
1.5 of those cameras,
Yeah, I don't know what.
so.
Is maybe that number not the right number? Cause I'm looking at five.
Yeah, no, I went through that
640,
whole thing. It's
and it's coming up as books and printed materials.
the numbers you have on this sheet, I don't think are,
The
not
object
the line
code,
number, the 500 number is
the object code is
correct.
you think?
Yes.
We get by object code is what,
Yeah, 500, 640 books and printed
Oh,
materials.
yeah, no, not the 641.
Nope, you're right.
it's the 731, you think? Is the,
I got
it should be
731, 735, 430 and 650.
Would be 500, 430.
430.
I copy and pasted this.
No, that's okay. I just want to make sure I was looking. at the
we
right
can
number.
make note that you made your first mistake on November 1st this year.
We don't count that one.
I don't know if I count it as my mistake. I copy and pasted, but
Oh, wow. Flashing light on whether it's really. Okay, a mistake was made.
Yeah.
We're not blaming
I
any.
blame Terry because he's probably the one that did that.
Oh, that's where it's coming from.
no,
Okay,
I actually know what happened.
but that's okay.
I'm not gonna get into it.
And my last question was, if you look at the software line, 500650, we spent 2,500 the last 2 years. Now, is that like a
Are you looking at high
subscription-based
school
software? Yeah,
specifically?
for photography.
Which one?
Yes.
I'm sorry, say that
That's
number
high school.
again?
That's correct.
No, just the object code, last 3.
650. Thank you.
It's on page 9 of the high school.
So is that like a subscription or?
Yep.
You just find.
And I worked with Brittany on this before she left because she's the one that we work closely when it comes to softwares and in regards to all departments. And that is the Adobe software.
Oh, it's Photoshop.
Photoshop.
Yep.
Lightroom, all that.
It's a yearly license.
It was,
It's a yearly license.
yes.
I mean,
They don't do anything cheap in that club.
There might be money in software.
The cameras.
do you know how many licenses we get to use offhand? I mean, if you don't have it, I'm just curious.
I'll try to look it up.
How many cameras you said?
No, so I have an Adobe subscription. costs
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
$60 a month.
I think.
For just me.
Cost per student.
So I was just wondering like how many,
Half the high school takes that class.
Yeah, there's a lot of kids taking the class.
yeah.
$2,500 is a good deal if you're doing it at $60.
Well, that's what I was trying to figure. That might actually not be a bad cost for the number of people using it. Cause it's
I
not a
didn't know
cheap
it was A
software.
yearly license or not.
Mhm.
Yeah. I just want to make, cause I know they also offer, I assume we're getting the school discount. Adobe does a lot of stuff with giving schools cheaper prices.
Righty.
I'm looking, I'm almost there. Oh, I typed in the wrong. number.
So the bottom line is they want to get the E7s. And they don't want to go backwards in the sense that they didn't feel they could be as productive in class with it.
Correct. Settings and all that.
I'm not a camera person, so I'm relying on other people to,
Not a camera person either.
It does not tell me how much.
I know all the lenses and all that are interchangeable, and I can't imagine the user face. I mean, the interface would be all that different, but again, I'm not gonna argue with them. If they want them, whatever.
Yeah.
It's just unfortunate.
is it E5? Is E5 even available right now to purchase?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I just didn't.
Five?
T5,
This,
Okay.
about half as much.
I got the final prize.
no, I
I'm
don't.
just
know.
following my notes. I wouldn't know.
I don't know.
And by the way, that's not my first mistake of the year, by the way. Just
There are
FYI.
other models that are similar that are not as expensive. That's
Okay.
my only thing is, you give it a bunch of kids. $800-900 cameras.
Mm,
No wonder they need repairs. And $200 to repair one is cheaper than replacing them, so.
Yep, no, I have
I
no
think we
issue with the
should look
repair
into
them, yeah.
Budgeting more towards that. If they need three already, that's $600 right there, out of their $1,500 repair budget.
I'm personally surprised that you can buy the same camera. I would think technology has updated so much that this wouldn't even be an option available the way that I think about it. So I have no idea.
They're that good of a camera that there's just nowhere else to go.
Okay.
I think one of the biggest things is too, is that people aren't buying cameras as much, so they're not getting all that technology and not trying to keep going forward with much.
Your phone probably has better
Yeah.
photo receptors than the T7.
No.
If you know how to use
Actually,
it.
use more like post-processing effects to beautify their images.
Oh, yeah, you don't
Not
need software or anything. You can,
Cause like the size of the camera on your phone, like the lens, all that is a huge limiting factor, so they have to get smart with it. This,
Yeah, the sensor on the DSLR is bigger, but the picture quality, you can get 8K quality pictures.
Digressing again.
Sorry. I'm just saying,
That with your phone.
the short answer is I kind of agree with
Has-
Tony. I don't know that for
Some
teaching a
kids
class,
don't have
the 5 or the
cameras.
7.
I don't think that it's
my
absolutely necessary to have $900 cameras to learn how to shoot digital photography, but that's just me. I'm old school. I went back when they had film.
Yeah.
We had dark rooms when I was
I hear you.
chemicals.
What do we want to do as a board? What, are we wanting to?
No, because
They cut that from 10 to 56 or whatever, right? Was that what they asked for? And they want like 16 cameras?
We haven't done anything to
Well,
any
I thought last
line.
time we discussed it.
No, we didn't do anything to any line.
I guess I'm in the same zone as you. I'm okay with leaving it where it is. It's just, if they're gonna go 7s over 5s, they just won't be able to get as many new.
I'm the same way, but I would highly recommend they look at the T5s, just the,
Well, not specifically the T5, but there are
Oh,
similar
whatever,
models
whatever.
where everything's interchangeable. I mean, there's T6,
Yeah.
there's a bunch of different ones. I just use the T5 because I have one and it's a more than enough camera for high school students to learn how to take pictures with. That's my only point. And I'll leave it at that. I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, I agree that, I mean, if we can get something similar quality,
Put more cameras in more kids' hands
Yep.
for that amount of money. Why wouldn't we do that? That's my point.
anyways.
With
all right.
120 kids taking the class, I mean.
So they have the money, it's just a matter of how they're gonna use it. I think that's where we're going. All right. Next up,
High school computer replacement equipment. We have
Thanks, Tony.
science machines for students, for student use, 25 to support max students, 5 for when machines go down and need repair, and sign out for students doing exhibition by honors or needing machines during study RAM. So maintaining 32 is critical in ensuring that students all have access to actual laptops. What type of computer needs to be replaced? Currently, we're running HP 650 and 450, 32 GB RAM, 250 to 500 MB storage, and updated graphics card. That being said, Tech was looking into switching companies and models. As the HPs have more than doubled in price over the past few years, the thought is they may be able to get a better deal, but this would be a change they start to implement school-wide eventually, but it could start with these machines. Are these computer used?
can I interject? I would hope they would start that sooner, that changeover. If they can get something similar, less expensive, we should be doing that, right?
I'm gonna go to the tech guys here and I don't know.
Okay.
Why are the computers costing more? Because the technology has gotten better. I don't understand how the price,
Because the programs require more to operate them.
so the programs, okay, so the
You need
programs
more
are,
computer
The program is
to run it.
dictating what you
Right,
need
all right,
Yeah.
versus,
It's why your iPhone only lasts 3 years.
well,
I do Android.
you know, the computer I have at home,
Hipster
for
guy.
example, the one I have at home wouldn't be able to run these.
I know that, but I'm like,
That's what the issue is.
so in my mind, we've continued to use the same CAD program for the last, I'm just gonna say 5 years. But the machines that run the CAD program have gone up in price. But it's the same
The
CAD.
requirements to operate that software have.
CAD,
changed
so
as
the
well.
CAD program has gone up. Okay.
So
Yeah,
you-
it gets
Software
more,
has changed.
Video cards.
All right, all right. Yep.
They
Just
want
like
your money, that's.
at PlayStation 4 went to PlayStation 5, so
Yeah.
Call of Duty got more expensive.
well,
Well, there's
and
more
HP,
to it. but-
We can schedule a computer class, yeah.
There's a difference between like hardware and software. Hardware makes sure softwares run better, and in that case, usually software tries to improve because it has more, like, for lack of a better word, toys to play with.
Yep.
That's why like modern games take up like 500 gigabytes of your hard space, because most consoles and stuff like that have more storage space. So game developers are just going to use more of that.
Right.
And it's the same with software. They have more space and more resources. They're going to use it, so they make their program better. So over the years, CAD has updated to be more efficient, more in depth, and things like that. So hardware actually has to update to meet that. It's like a give and take.
By the end of tonight, I'm gonna be a camera and computer expert.
Yep.
I will say HP is one of the more expensive brands. There are other
Dell.
laptop options that will have the same
Same bells
specs.
and whistles.
Yeah,
I-
RAM and hard drive space, all that is interchangeable manufacturer to manufacturer, but HP, definitely one of the top end brands, but also one of the
Durable though, because we don't have the most
Yes.
caring, giving students.
Right.
I have a, I
Durability.
think it's an Asus gaming computer that was, it's a little bit more, but it's nice and big and I run SolidWorks on it. I don't know if you know what that is, but that's like Fusion 360 times 8 trillion.
Yeah, just, I understand getting something cheaper, but can it take that?
See,
You know?
cheaper isn't always better.
Right, no, I,
That's what I'm, yeah, I'm
It's
just,
gonna crack every time you try to use it.
that's what I'm getting at. What Steve is saying is you gotta find somewhere in the middle.
See, here's
Yeah.
where I would rather the
all I'm saying for me
expensive
is,
high-end one and not try to.
Move it down the road with the better.
Yeah.
models.
The
From an
opposite.
outsider perspective, it's always nicer when you have better hardware and like software runs smoother. It's like the difference between running something at like 5 frames per second versus slideshow, and then something that actually runs smoothly makes a world of difference. And like, either like fuel passions or kill them.
Yeah.
You want to spend your whole time with the thing, trying to load or waiting for it to
circle on there.
what's the word I'm looking for?
Yeah, I'm not saying we look to reduce the capacity of the laptop.
Yeah, I'm talking
It's the
about-
Same
No, I'm saying-
specifications.
same bang for your, different, better bang for your
still a
buck.
hardy,
Think ahead here.
a hardy package to go with it,
I
right?
think the.
HP isn't the only one that has this package.
It's barely run Explorer.
Yeah.
Just going by what we have, I could have swore that we took some money out of some
Oh, Jesus, back down this road.
on computers and that we were supposed to run on a 5-year cycle
Mm.
with all the computers in that room. Maybe I was wrong when we did this like 6 years ago, but
Oh, was I here 6 years ago, Joe?
I wasn't.
Mm,
Well,
Was not.
Well, it was even less than 6 years ago because we talked about it.
Because
several
I was
years.
here.
Well, I remember Brittany.
He's gonna
saying
find a way
they
to
were
blame you.
Trying to cycle through.
I'll see what we bought from surplus. Oh, look. Do I need to discuss any more of those answers that were provided under the computer? Okay.
It would be nice to know though how many CAD computers we have currently, or how many students are able to do it simultaneously.
And then how many really need to, right?
Yeah,
That's just as
if you got
important, 'cause if-
16 kids in a class and there's 8 computers, I mean, that's a problem.
Or do we have 16 that are CAD available, but we only have 10 kids doing it?
Well,
That's
a problem.
that's
its own
important too,
problem,
right?
Yeah,
Well, not a problem, but
less to have to. replace.
right.
I have a question.
Go ahead, Cindy.
So, if someone has their own computer, are they allowed to bring it in and use that?
I believe
No,
everything has to
they
be
have to
school
use-
related if you're in a class, like
Okay.
especially this computer class,
Yeah, you
right?
can't do that anymore because private laptops don't connect to the school Wi-Fi.
Oh,
So it wouldn't work.
We're very high security here, Cindy.
well, that's fine. I was just curious. If
Can't
the
even-
kids say that's their field and they want to get their own computer and
Yep.
do it themselves.
Probably, some of them probably do have
My
better.
personal PC and might be able to lug around, but
I can see
Go ahead,
it
Joe.
now.
Because I think one of the biggest things we need to pay, because we're asking for 13, I think the class had 26 or something like that before. I mean, if we can get these guys on a rotating budget, that way it's in, every year it's the same amount, they're replacing so many. And, that way we don't have to worry about buying a big bulk of them all at the same time.
How many are we being asked to purchase this year? Do you know, is it Marjorie? And if you don't, that's fine. You don't have to look it up. Don't have to look it up.
It says 13.
I want to say 13.
We've got
It
20
says
kids in
13
CAD
right
right now.
there.
Yeah,
20 kids in CAD,
yeah, because if I divide 32 by 5, that doesn't come to 13.
one class.
No, I wonder is the number of available computers a limiting
That's
factor?
why my math works.
It's like, but
Someone will have
it's
to
a
look
good
at,
number though in CAD.
right? I'd like to see it like 60.
All right. Next up, student services.
You changed the director's line.
Yep, I was trying to still look for that
Yeah,
information.
but don't worry about it.
I know, but I did, John. So my notes in here say, so $12,800 is to replace remaining high school computers. Same as last year, keeps all PCs for computer science classes on 5-year rotation. Numbers replaced depend on computer costs. And then there's an additional one that's for $8,425, and that says Loco Extreme Robots need to replace Lego Mindstorms with new robots that are supported and have updated curriculum. 15 robots and 30 seats for software increase.
So it's not a computer then. Okay.
Well, we missed the rotation last year.
We tried though. We tried to get them some computers.
We could have, but
It was budgeted.
it was
Right.
snafu.
We tried.
I'm not good.
Amazing how we snap.
We won't, because I know what happened last time.
We're moving on.
Yeah.
All right.
Student
Oh,
services,
Okay, I'm
Oh,
sorry.
go ahead,
sorry.
go ahead. I'll wait till the end. Go ahead.
Student services, change the title of the director's line, that's done. Reallocate periodicals to subscriptions. So by definition, when I look at our New Hampshire Financial Accounting Code handbook,
I looked this up.
periodicals and subscriptions basically fall under the same line. So subscriptions and periodicals, so I don't see any need to change that.
I mean, I do have a question then. Can you go /subscriptions on this one?
I could do that.
Would
Yeah.
that be just in print or was that considered like software subscription?
Software subscription.
Any kind of subscription?
Well, if it's a software, I'm gonna put it under software.
Okay.
But if it's a subscription, it's gonna go under subscription. Okay, but I can change the periodicals and subscriptions. Pre-K, what's the list for next year? We have 11 students on the wait list for next year. There are currently 12 students, 4 4-year-olds next year identified and 8 4-year-olds next year in referral. It is highly likely that we will have 19 to 20 identified 4-year-olds next year. So it's the end of the question list.
So that means we could have up to 19 to 20 non-identified in preschool.
Or we have to add classrooms.
I'm just saying, based on the rule, we have to have half and half.
Correct.
I don't want to get into that discussion.
No, I'm just saying,
Yeah.
we can have 19 or 20
I
identified.
had
We could have up to another 19 or 20. So that's, I don't know that we will. I'm just saying.
Go ahead, Joe.
And again, the wait list, is that just the olds waiting to get in
Yep.
already? It's just. It's just something I would definitely like to see investigate because it seems so low compared to what it used to be.
Your COVID baby theory is gonna, have to see.
We'll wait a couple of years for that one still.
They'll be coming around soon,
But, I mean, it just seems,
almost 24.
yeah, but I mean, even without it, I mean, it's so small of a number. I mean, we used to have, you know, if you had 100 kids in a grade, you'd have, 50 or 60 kids on a wait list waiting to get in. Not 11.
I don't
That doesn't
think,
even cover the class, so they,
I don't know. I don't think people are clamoring to hand their kids over anymore like they used to be.
All right, are we all, any other questions or comments about what was presented with the questions and answers that we received? Go ahead, Joe.
not what we presented, but something we did talk about last week was, that's something for student services. If we added the grant funded positions in now, and we have now, into next year's budget, default budget would also go up because they wouldn't include that. Because we have to get student services individuals in here. Outside student services individuals, correct?
Contracted
So,
services, yeah.
so Terry and I talked about that. So basically, if those positions are added, when we add them into the proposed, if that's what the school board decides to do, which I think we intend on doing. If they will not be in the default, but what's going to happen is your contracted services is going to go up in your default budget.
It's probably gonna go up by more than what.
Yes.
Clarifying question. I think there were 4 positions in the information under student services that we were told, I thought, they're in the budget that we have in front of us. They're just not called out by line. They're someplace else. And I'm not worried about where the someplace else is right now. Is that my understanding? So the money's there.
Money's-
It's in our budget for the, whatever the budget bottom line. I don't have it in my head right yet, but all right. I wanted to mention, last time we were talking about the impact of like 100,000 was like 10 cents. And I did the math. It's actually about 135, for every 135,000, it's 10 cents ballpark, just enough way. But that's
Say that one more time.
135,000 for 10 cents.
So 1.3 million would be about $1, right?
Yep.
So you wanted to-
But that is going by the Glass Falls, not the new, and the new hasn't come out yet. So last time I knew, when I checked this afternoon.
I don't expect it to change all that much, really.
No, I don't know. But anyways, just so that everybody had that, so when they go forward. Update on when we anticipate revenue. I know we always talk about the middle.
November 15th.
We will have numbers that night, or we,
November 15th is when the state releases it. I can work on everything else until then, like our local revenues.
no, that's fine.
The big majority of it does come from the state.
Okay. Next thing when do we want to meet again on this? Our meeting on the 15th sounds like it's a meeting, which is on third Wednesday, excuse me. It's going to be too full to add a budget discussion. So when would we like to have that? Now, we committed to the budget committee that we're going to have numbers to them by when? Was it,
Tomorrow?
Before Thanksgiving break.
I think it was like Wednesday before, right? And you need about a week if everything was worked your way,
Yeah,
right?
depending on how much you guys change, yeah. If you don't.
I was asking about the revenue, is because to me, revenue, how do you propose a budget without knowing how you're gonna pay for it, right? That's where I come from. So that's why I was asking about that. So if I said, geez, we wanted to meet the 16th, would you have revenue? But then the other side of that is that's one less day you have to get your stuff done, right? So that's why I'm at, that's for me.
If you wanted to meet on the 16th, I could make that happen.
Your machine or is that something?
Can people meet the 16th?
Oh, goodness.
That's a Thursday night.
I'm good.
Probably have to go downstairs because I got the planning board.
Yep, yeah, yeah. We'll
Even
find
though
a-
if I refer to
Is the 8th a go?
JB or whatever we did earlier, section 3 here.
At this time, the 8th is still a meeting night. But again, what I'm trying to do, Steve, is
Yeah, I'm just.
we
trying to
won't know
look at the
revenues any sooner than the
schedule.
16th.
Yeah.
And if, for me, I like to be able to say, okay, this is how we're paying for it. And hopefully by then we'll know the Raymond tax rate. Hopefully, we don't know that, but anyways, go ahead. You look like
Say we're meeting on the 8th.
You're not.
Okay.
on public.
I was like, wait a second, I do not have that.
The
Okay.
16th would be the day we make our choices. Is that what you're saying?
We
have
would
to have that
finalize our
done by-
budget, yeah.
Okay.
So we would say, okay, yay or nay to anybody's suggestions. Terry's put forth some things. He put forth his budget,
Right.
which is what we asked him to do. And now we're gonna have to weigh in on what the number ultimately will be. And there'll be probably some discussions.
Like I said, the ball's in your court.
So does the
16th.
16th at 6 o'clock work for everybody? Right, that it is. Thank you.
Yeah, again, let me confirm with the boss.
I booked that right out till 10 o'clock.
No, please.
Please, no.
It's only gonna cost you
It'll be a
$100.
quick one.
Stop that.
All right, next up.
I know I preemptively screwed us.
All right. Discussion of our students, our schools. Terry had asked to have this conversation. I'll let him take it from.
As we've noticed just at the beginning of the year, we're really struggling to get kids in here. We're struggling to get teachers in here. I'm kind of proposing a more, somewhat of a different route. I think that as I've thought out loud, I think it's still good to bring the schools in. I'm off the top of my head, if we brought them in twice a year to do more of a formal, this is a new program, this is a new nothing, but I think it's still really important that, you know, every week, one of the principals brings in a small group of students, a student, 2 students, and just talks about the success that student's had. Whether that student has, let's just say, a high school kid has got accepted to Dartmouth, or a high school kid who has struggled is going to graduate on time and is really happy about their success. Or we have a kindergarten student who was a struggling reader, but now through all the intervention they had, they're very good reader, proficient reader, and we have them read just, you know, a short little book in front of everyone. They can lead us in the pledge, just some different options to be a little more creative and getting kids in here and that's ultimately who we want to see. That's my opinion.
Discussion. Good.
I mean, I like the idea. I mean, I think it's, in this day and age, it's hard to, I mean, you're asking teachers to come in later. They don't all live right next door here. It's not like they can pop in and, you know, they conservatively, they're gonna sit out there at 6:15. They're not getting out of here until 6:30. They might have an hour to drive home, 45 minutes to drive home after. So yeah, I like the idea. Trying to get different ideas, get kids in here. And a lot of the stuff we've seen every single year, just with different kids there, yes, but it's the same thing every single year, so.
Anybody else wish to weigh in?
I know I wanted to, I don't know, it just popped in my head that I know you want to get people in here face to face. But they could, you know, if they can get a couple people and do a video type thing, like in your classroom, we're making this video for the school board type of thing.
I think, again, yeah, we could do that every once in a while too.
You could also put that like on RCTV.
Yep.
Kids would
If
probably
you
love
want
that.
to, I don't know.
Kids would love to be on TV.
Yeah.
Talk down.
I mean, I know I want to see people face to face too, but if it's between nothing or
The
something.
goal is still to bring people in here face to face. That's not going to stop. It's just going to be a different vibe where a principal might talk about a student, celebrate the student, and then you guys could ask questions about the success that student's had or the project that student's done or the outside to bring in, you know, if we could get that race car.
That's
driver
what I extended.
to ask him to say,
to a
hey,
couple of
you know,
students.
I'm just, my experience, I'd walk around, ooh, hey, would you like to come to the board meeting, do the pledge? And then I would talk about that student. Or, you know, like, I'm not gonna lie, I'd walk in the Wood room and say, oh my God, this is a great project you're doing. Can you come in? And he'd come in, you know, it'd be totally different, but it might be a book on Anne Frank and presentation they were doing, or The Giver, or something like that, something quick, boom. A few kids would come in, talk about it, ask the questions. It was just different. It wasn't this, you know, I've been here a year and I've already seen the same stuff again. So, you know, I want to add some new energy.
Calling us predictable.
I'm
Are you calling us predictable?
Are you talking about other meetings or just within our normal? meeting?
With our normal,
Three rotation, you know, be them, you know, whatever rotation we have, somebody would be here.
it'd be still our students, our school, it's just
Yep.
different,
Yeah.
different way of presenting. Tony, you had something?
No, I was just gonna add to what Terry was saying, how I extended an invitation to a couple students that are doing some cool stuff outside of school to see if they had any interest in coming in.
So you want more interaction from school board from students, is what it sounds like?
Well, this started about 10 years ago, our students, our schools for the board. And the intent is to have more interactions with, so that when the board is seeing students and or staff presenting things. The intent being, we get to see that, but also the community gets to see all the great things that the kids are doing and the staff. And that's the history behind it. I'll be honest, I think as long as we get kids in here and present, I'm not that concerned with what it's called or what it's done. But I think it's important because what are we here for? Who's the customer? The students. So anytime we can get them in front of us and it being, so it's not a burden for individuals.
Yeah.
So
I think that might be something to legitimately discuss with site council, because we have a lot of high performing students in that group, and I think a lot of kids would be interested in interacting with the people who like dictate our school. And so I'll see if I can pass that along and talk it through.
He's gonna get an ice cream.
ice cream,
What if they could do interviews?
You're gonna get a swirl.
Like
You don't even have to pick a flavor.
Video of, there's
Again,
probably some kids that'll never come.
what I've envisioned, Cindy, is it could be anything. I think we're in this rut of it has to be, and I don't want to speak ill of it or anything. It's Nature's Classroom. It's the DC trip. It's RCYF. It's iReady. It seems to be very, very predictable.
when we talked about this at the agenda meeting, for example, Tony mentioned, hey, so-and-so won a race at race car race the other day. Maybe we can have so-and-so in, that type of thing, or, if, I don't know, somebody in dance outside of class, outside of the building. Horse race, whatever it is,
Horses
yeah.
and stuff like that.
Well, I made a video of the gardens. I was
There you
really
go.
interested
Yeah.
in the gardens and I went by and checked them out and was very impressed.
Which
Sounds,
But I didn't see the people that actually built them.
we're talking about the digital photography and the cameras and all this.
Yeah, like a slideshow and
Just have a kid,
Student
have a couple, 2 or 3 students come in and talk about, the impact this camera has and how it's being used and why it's being used and,
Yeah.
and let's be real too, they're kids. It's gonna hit the ground. It
Yeah.
saves, it bounces a little easier than because it's, it's built a little stronger. Just something to talk about. This is what I learned in this class. This is why this class was important to me. And, this is how I grew as a student or a passion. We've had ELO kids come in. It tends to be a little bit more unique in how they've been successful doing those ELOs. I would love to bring a kid in from SST, just 2 kids to come in, just 2.
Yeah.
Talk about specifically. And we're talking the older kids, but even at the middle school, how the soccer team, how did they fare, or students who are doing something different, something unique, or just being a student too. They're just a good kid or a kid that's grown a lot, has made a lot of growth, and celebrate that. Because we've had a lot of kids who have been behavior kids who have made significant growth. We need to celebrate that. We've also had some kids who are academic, have made significant growth too. So let's start celebrating that more individualized instead of, Nature's Classroom. It's a great thing. I'm not saying it.
In addition. to
Yes, I'd still, they're going to come in.
celebrate the football team on a good. season.
Absolutely. They made the playoffs. They're the number 3
Yeah,
seed.
they've had an
Yeah.
outstanding season.
Yeah. That's right.
It's something, I know, Steve, go ahead, Steve.
No, that's okay. I just want to add to that because I like Cindy's idea of a video and I know what you're saying, but maybe we can also, in addition to bringing all those folks here, because I like that, add I'm just spitballing, but like, I know we have kids who want to do video classes. We have Adobe software. We have kids who are taking, why don't we, on our SAU website, have a video spotlight of these same kids? Just the spotlight of our kids, our schools. Like, I think taking the folks that come here and present in person and putting them online might also prompt more kids to go, oh, hey, that's cool. I want to be on that. I want to be featured. And they're now on the school's website is obviously with all the proper authorizations from parents and all that.
Yep.
We'll be forced to be online, but I just think we could use social media, if you will, and digital age that we live in to our advantage and promote all the positives to a much wider audience. I know we have a very dedicated group of folks who watch every meeting, but I know we also have a large majority who probably only peek their heads in when there's something really interesting to them. And if we could push these messages out further, why not?
And I think that's very important too, because for some reason, Tyler said today, he's actually proud to say he's graduating from Raymond. And we're working on making that more, what I want to say, the common saying.
Mm-hmm.
And so I can say just in the last, I keep saying this, but the gains we have made just this year in how buildings are run, the calmness, the attention, it's just a different vibe. And so we're turning that corner. So I think you're right. We do need to figure out how to start celebrating that. But I'm just telling you, Steve, it's time. It's people. You got to find that kid that wants to do it. And the hard part is once you find that kid's graduate, who's going to take over for it? It gets harder. You know what I'm saying? We have these things and then who's going to continue to do it?
We'll just hire another person to do it.
Well, it's not, no, we don't want to hire. We want it to be a volunteer thing.
That was me.
For the club. We got a whole, Todd and I were talking, we got a whole broadcasting studio in there.
That blows my mind.
Why we're not,
Anyway.
I did it at the middle school and I got a little tug of war with the superintendent there and the board there. I had more people watching that middle school news every week. I didn't have to do a newsletter and it went out. I had a kid doing the weather for the week. They loved it.
Mhm.
All of a sudden, well, Terry, you need to still do a paper news. Well, then you know what? We're not doing the broadcast anymore because I don't have time to do both.
Right.
Because I'd go in there and I'd read my little news article too, and so it was huge. The viewership on that was huge. So I'm like, we got to figure out how to get that thing up and running again too, but it's time, it's energy.
But TV would love
I know.
if we can, because again, we've been having this type of conversation periodically for years.
Yes.
That but again, you have to have kids, high school students willing to do whatever in this case, because it's the ICP.
And I keep saying to everybody, and I don't want to take this wrong, we can't fix everything in year one. We're making progress. So it's something down the road that we're going to take a look at.
I'm in year 2 right now.
I'm in year 2, but everybody else is in year 1.
Bigger goals.
Took a couple steps backwards, a couple times last year,
Sorry.
but we're moving the needle,
Okay. Tyler, did you?
Oh, I was just gonna say, is there any official posting or anything concerning our students, our schools, or is it?
Typically it's Mr. Danable who will walk around
For the high
and about it and find somebody and get a group.
Each principal actually organizes at each of the 3 schools, because we wrote, as Mr. Leatherman said, we try to rotate. Tonight was going to be the high school. Next time would have been, I don't know, middle school or elementary, whatever.
But what if we incorporate like a nomination process, right? Like someone could say, hey, this person should be highlighted and we can go from there.
I think what Terry wants is a little more free flowing.
Yeah, I want to just,
You could also do that, but when you have nothing, you fall back on.
well, it's up to the principals will be nominating people. Tyler, I would love you to come to the school board and talk about this.
Yeah.
And so, I saw you participating in this, or, I used to walk around to the teachers, hey, I need some help. I need a 5th grader. Can you show me a bone? And it would, hey, Marjorie, da-da-da. I'm like, hey, and I'd go up to Marjorie and have a conversation. I'd call the parent up. Hey, just an FYI, I'd love Marjorie to come to the board meeting, da-da-da-da. Oh, Terry, that's great. We'd love that. Boom, they're there. So you'll be in and out in 15 minutes. Thank you. Boom, they're out. And they love that.
Go ahead, Joe.
We have been talking about using, as John said, the media center
I know.
as a whole for years. And we did at one time have students that would borrow the cameras and they would actually film the games, some of them.
Yep. COVID's
know.
knocked us off. We gotta quit using that as an excuse and get back into some of that stuff again. Yep. We gotta get back.
And the elementary school actually did a thing every morning where they would go in front of a green screen and do it.
Yeah.
That was pretty cool.
Oh my God, we had a green screen teleprompter. We had the whole 9 yards. Yeah.
Go ahead.
That might be the answer to my question. So we have a full broadcast studio and the ability to broadcast to every room in the building?
No,
Home in town.
Well, I know we have RCTV. I guess my thought was you want to get the kids to start using the broadcast. You start doing a video morning announcement with the kids. I mean,
I get it. but
it's a lot. It's a big.
I just
saying.
want somebody to do something once a week before I start doing daily stuff. And then the problem is
Yeah,
there's
really.
no TVs in the rooms anymore. So that's obsolete no more. There's no feed. It have to be on the internet. It have to be wireless. And
What's
just
just with those?
What about RCT?
not every one of them's got, not all of them's got.
We had those in all the rooms.
I don't think we do. We could, I'd have to go walk around. I'm,
Go ahead, John.
I mean, one of the biggest things that when we were discussing is if, yes, you want to have a class here, but then you need a certified teacher to teach the class. I know when I was going to school, our history teacher was also the TV person as well.
Right.
You'd have double, half and half.
Yeah, I mean,
Yes.
our English teachers were always the drama teachers in my school. They always were the ones directing the plays, and I mean, I don't know if anyone would want to, but I assume we could do the same thing with a video.
we're again, trying to get the arts back up again too and
Yeah.
build the band numbers app, chorus number. We get those going again. Goal would be, all right, so now we got the people, let's put a drama presentation on. Let's take the next step. Because there's kids out here who definitely want to be, can sing and want to be part of a drama presentation. They want to do Oklahoma again,
I know they're doing chorus at the elementary school and my daughter loves it.
Yeah.
Like she wishes they did it every day. She's up and dressed and ready to go on chorus days.
I didn't know you were
That's-
mine too. My third grader.
Good, that's what we want. All right.
Sorry.
So you clear what you,
Yep, I will let the principals know.
If you could fix all of those by next meeting.
Friday memo.
No, Friday.
Friday memo. I gave you too much time. Friday memo.
all right. Next up, committee reports. I know the policy committee met this recently, so we'll continue the flow of policies coming through the agenda, and on Friday, you'll see some in the Friday memo on some of the policies that we reviewed and didn't see a need to make any changes. Anybody else?
I have a
Go ahead.
question.
Cindy, go
How
ahead.
does that policy, like, do you just do what you can every week or do
Evans,
you have a goal?
we meet periodically.
Yeah.
Some, and more as needed. What happens is it happens through many different means. If during discussion at the board level, somebody asks, can we have this policy reviewed? That gets on the agenda. New Hampshire School Board Association, who we have the policy, services through, they periodically, usually 2 or 3 times, maybe 4 times a year, will send out, here is some policies that need to be updated because of legislative changes or other things. Sometimes it's even, geez, we've seen this problem, or some districts have seen this problem, we've come up with a policy for it. Sometime the administration will say, hey, we need to revisit this policy, and that's when that will be put forth. So we'll get a list. This last time, we probably had 30 or so policies, and we didn't get to every one of them because we
So
just
where do
ran
you
out
get
of
the
time.
list from?
What's that?
Do you make the list?
There's an agenda like a regular meeting.
The administration comes up with the list. I'd say Terry, but I don't know that it's really Jen.
Oh,
that it
okay,
comes from.
okay,
But
okay,
it comes through that office.
okay.
But again,
They're
if
suggested.
they're suggested, that under any of the umbrella that I mentioned, from
Mhm.
at the board talking about it, a board member asking for it, because I asked for one to be put on, so it was on there. New Hampshire School Board Association, geez, the high school principal sees a problem with something, and we'll get a conversation about it, so,
Okay.
all right?
I was curious.
If our student rep maybe had a
Exactly.
issue with a policy, you
And
could
you
bring
don't
it
get
here and.
through all the policies in a year, right?
Oh, heavens, no.
Yeah,
Cindy, have you seen our book?
I know, that's what I'm saying, that's why I was
We don't
wondering.
take too many out. We like to throw a
Okay.
few more in there.
And usually we subtract periodically, but anyways, so,
Okay,
go
thank
ahead.
you.
Yep, go ahead, Joe.
New Hampshire School Board Association, you might have saw the email come out about the 300 or so laws that they want to look at. They only have titles right now. They'll come up with a wedding soon enough. They also have their veto day, which I didn't know they had. I thought they could veto things anytime they wanted to, but not override the veto, I should say, anytime they wanted to. But I guess they have a special day for it, New Hampshire, which I didn't know until.
Nice.
Yep.
So who vetoes? Who's
The governor,
Governor veto.
the
and-
governor himself?
I think all 9 of his were upheld.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody else on committee? All right, superintendent's report?
Kind of did mine with the, our students are stuff. Kudos to the principals and Marjorie for the budget. It's been, busy time with that. A lot of meetings.
Thanks, Marjorie.
Walking in my door nonstop. So, court today, that went well. And now I'm going through sealed minutes. We're hammering that.
Nice.
Yeah. The policy, we've got a policy.
Oh,
Well, the legislature, and I'll say this, because I'm
my wife.
about, right. Their infinite wisdom have decided that we need to review, in essence, all our policies that not policies, excuse me, all non-public minutes throughout our history of time here in Raymond, which goes back with minutes anyways, back maybe 40 years. Is that my math right? Yeah, 40 years or so. As part of that, we need to come up with a list of all those. And then someone does that, will then have to go through those policies to find out if any of them can be unsealed. And then after that, we have to keep this list up to date. And within 10 years, you have to revisit every 10 years, those things. So I think what we need to start doing is saying, because we really as a district never done it this way. For example, if we had a non-public tonight and we know within a year that those minutes are going to be good to go, you make that motion and then you take that process. You take some of that work away.
Yeah, because I was going through it and I'm like, well, these can be in the next 2 months. Because of what the topic was.
But the reason I bring it up was because in part of the conversation, the policy committee got New Hampshire School Board Association suggested solutions for that. They gave us 2 options and we chose one of the 2 options. And Terry and I decided that it would be by a vote of maybe 3-0, maybe 2-1. Terry,
Keep it track.
doing both.
Yeah.
So it was no vote, but.
I've been 2-0 vote. We had a vote.
So that's where we are. I just wanted to give you an update. We'll see that policy coming forward. I think next Wednesday we asked.
Yep, next Wednesday it'll be.
But I just wanted to give you guys, not next Wednesday, but the 2 Wednesdays from now. Go ahead.
That was actually going to be one of my questions.
Yep.
Because when we were actually at the yearly meeting,
Delegate assembly.
yes.
Yep.
I thought the way they explained it was more, it has to go before the entire board for review, all of them.
Well, it gives options. The New Hampshire School Board Association gave options. We could, without listing them all, for example, the list has to be done by a person to generate a list of what's outstanding, what's out there right now. Then to who reviews, New Hampshire School Board Association, if my memory serves, I can get out the book, but my memory was either at the yearly organizational meeting, the board chair would designate somebody to do this, or we could have 2 people do it. If we had 2 people, then you'd have to have a meeting in non-public to do this, and that would all have to be noticed and all that. So that's why we felt as a policy committee that it would be the superintendent. They could do it on their time when there's a lull in the action. I'm not gonna say there's any ever a stop in the action. So that's where,
But
Okay.
the ones that individual says would be unsealed, those would be presented to you and you would decide.
in non-public,
Yes or no?
we would discuss those things in non-public. And then if we decide, geez, that meeting in 2015 or whatever, we wanna, make it, unseal it, we would obviously have to do that.
Oh, I completely understand what the process. I'm just surprised they actually gave that as an option because the way it was discussed during that meeting was the whole school board. had to
Oh,
look at
God,
all
you
these.
never get it done.
That's why I
They
was,
want us to go back
Well,
that
the whole
far.
school board has to go and unseal them. The
Yes.
process, the New
Everything
Hampshire
we
School
have.
Board Association in the sample policy didn't lay it out that way.
I'm very surprised about that.
Oh, it did
The
never
way-
get done.
The way they were talking about it.
We'll just think to try to get
Oh, I
us.
completely understand that. I'm just going back to. you know,
Well, my beef with the whole thing is I wish the legislature would have said, okay, starting January 1st, 2024, this is what you need to do going forward.
oh, that- yeah, we-
And
Or even go back 5 years, 20 or that's a
well, we got about 40 years worth. So
simoleons.
if you see the light in the basement of the SAU on it tonight, you know who's down there working.
Terry, it's been nice knowing you. Like 18 months.
Under the superintendent's report, we got deviated, but I have a question about that. Did you have anything else?
Nope.
Okay. When our Raymond Coalition for Youth came in, we talked about the numbers for students who felt that their parents didn't think alcohol use and
Yep.
marijuana use. And we had talked about getting those numbers out to the parents through the Friday. Did that happen?
I know that Tom's done it. I emailed Pete. I just got to do it. I don't know if he's put it in his Friday message, but Tom puts it in every,
Well, I don't think we needed every.
that's just Tom's,
You know,
yeah, I know.
as a parent,
I know.
it gets old fast.
Yep. I think Pete's done it. I just haven't looked. I haven't.
If we could, I just wanted to, because I'll be honest, I get the ones from the high school and I haven't seen it, but I hadn't gone back and revisited it. So I obviously don't get it from the middle school. Anyways,
Did we ever get the other data that was not on the survey?
we got them in a Friday memo.
All right, good.
Right.
I haven't been able to keep.
No, that's
my
fine.
Emails.
No, anybody else? All right, next up, manifest.
Correspondence or other?
Oh, I'm sorry. Marjorie must chomping at the bit for her opportunity. Anybody for correspondence or other? Sorry. The excitement of hearing the manifest got me.
Accounts payable tonight, $594,941.65. Bless you.
Bless you.
$502,593.86 for a grand total of $1,097,535.51. Thank you.
Has it been signed?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Approval of minutes, October 4th, public minutes.
Make a motion that we.
Wait a minute before we do, I'm sorry, I hadn't had a chance to open it. I've got one thing on page 4. There was a vote and the vote as to who voted where needs to be corrected.
1, 2,
I got to page 5, sorry. And it is the affirming the calendar. The vote should read that for the calendar was, in the affirmative was Joe, Cindy, and Steve. Tony and I were opposed.
That's on page 4.
Page 4, about maybe 50%, 60% down, school district calendar
Oh,
timeline, then the motion. They've got you and I voting voting no, and it was Tony and I voting no.
Oh.
And that's the only thing. Steve, Joe?
Cross out Steve and write me.
Well, I know this, the motion.
Oh, no, that's not the vote, but the motion.
Well, I'm asking for.
Oh, you-
Approve the minutes, sorry.
Not the motion in the minutes, the motion out the minutes.
Make a motion to, accept the units for October 4th, 2023 as amended.
Second.
That's the public minutes, correct?
Public minutes.
Second, invite
Second.
Steve. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Motion passes unanimously. Then the non-public minutes.
I'll make a motion to accept the non-public minutes of October 4th, 2023 and seal the minutes. Keep them sealed.
Second.
Can we unseal A?
I was,
I thought we made it.
yes, we could unseal it. You're right. I'll amend my motion to unseal A.
All set, Jen? He amended it to unseal A. Do we get a second?
Second, yeah.
All right, all those in favor? Aye. All right. Next up, October 18th. We get a motion for October 18th.
I'll make a motion to accept the minutes, public minutes for October 18th.
Get a second?
Second.
Second by Cindy. All those in favor? Aye, Steve would abstain because he wasn't there,
So I know there. That's fine.
right?
Oh, no, you're right. Okay,
So we got 4 yes and Steve abstained, is that correct?
Correct.
All right, motion passes. Thank you. Last one of the night, motion to adjourn.
Non-public?
Get the non-public.
Oh, non-public minutes of October 14th, 18th.
I got nothing, man.
I got nothing. I've got nothing.
What am I supposed to prepare for?
Sorry about that. Yep,
2 in a row and no non-public.
go ahead.
Make a motion to accept the minutes, non-public minutes of October 18th, 2023 and keep them sealed.
Get a second?
I'll second, or Cindy can have it.
Second by Cindy. I think what we should do is amend because we've got, the items are listed the same.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So if we can adjust that without getting away, right? All right, everybody okay with that? All right. So you okay with my amend, I don't know how we need to do this, but I think we'll just vote and we'll be good to go. All those in favor? Aye.
Abstain.
Okay, so we've got 4 yes and Steve is abstaining. Now we'll get a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Thanks, Joe. Motion to adjourn by Joe,
Seconded.
second by Steve. All those in favor? Aye.
Oh, yeah.
Motion passes unanimously.